Welcome to the July 26, 2016 Selectmen's meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:01. Roll call vote, please. Timmy King is present.
Gordon Clark present.
And Carolyn Smart is present. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, 1.3. Announce that the meeting is being video recorded and tape recorded. Anybody from the audience and one member from the audience may be tape recording as well. 1.4. Chairman's additions and deletions. I don't have any. Was there anything that needed to be added, Jim, or are we good? 2.1. We're a little early, Kathy, so we can go on to meeting business, but if you'd like to address it now, that's...
It's fine with me.
Okay, so we can move you up to 6:02. That was quick.
Yeah.
So Town Clerk Kathy Spofford, presidential election on November 8th, 2016. So welcome.
I'm requesting that we have the presidential election at the high school. We have the last two presidential elections. I have the okay from the school committee and from the superintendent, and there's no issues with the construction or anything. So I just need your approval, and along that will come sending out postcards to all the voters.
And that's something the Selectmen's office has to send out to all the voters, the change in location, right? And we have to send them out after to change the location back, is that?
I'm not quite sure when exactly that needs to go out. But in September, I'll be going with Rich Hanks to the high school to inspect it and fill out the forms, send it into the state. So any time after that. I don't think there'll be an issue where we've done it in the past.
Just for disclosure, I'm the assistant town clerk, but I don't have any financial gain in moving the election to the high school, so.
We don't have early voting for the presidential?
Oh, yes, we do.
We do. So is that that's going to be there also, or?
Oh, no, that's here.
So we're going to have early voting
Here.
for what? How many days prior?
10 days prior.
For 10 days.
Yeah, but that's starting with the presidential, not with the primary in September, just so everybody's clear on that.
But so 10 business days or calendar days?
It starts October 24th.
We can come here. There'll be ballot stations set up.
Yes.
In room 2.
In room 2.
But then on the formal election day, if we're going to vote, we go to the high school.
We go to the high school. Yep. And all the early voting ballots will be processed the day of the election at the high school.
Cindy brings up an interesting point, though. I suppose in the postcards we need to make it known that early voting will be at Town Hall.
Oh, that's a good idea. I hadn't even thought of that.
Because that is different.
We are required to have it advertised twice in the local paper.
Okay. So if we make it known that early voting will be here.
That would be even better.
The actual election there.
Yeah.
So there's no confusion. I don't want people showing up to the school.
Oh, I know. That wouldn't be good.
But the September 8th primary is just regular? Here.
Yes.
No early voting, just come on the 8th?
No, absentee voting only.
And is that 7 or 8, 7 a.m. or 8 a.m.?
7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
For the
and it's on a Thursday.
Right. Okay.
So that's going to be a confusion for people, I think.
That's why I'm...
The state will do a good job at advertising, and they've also luckily agreed not to advertise the early voting before the primary, because then you'll have people coming in for that.
Still might.
Got our fingers crossed. So we'll get confusion.
Not much we can do about it.
So does my board have any issue with moving the presidential to the high school? It worked out really well for the last two presidentials.
Yeah, it really did. A lot more room.
I don't want to split hairs over it, but do you think it'll be necessary with the early voting? Or?
We're not sure, and that's why we can't make any decisions on that, right?
Okay. If there's split out evenly, we can take note of this and maybe not have to do that next
We're not even getting any kind of funding from the state for it as of yet, because it's so unsure of what we're going to need.
Any talk of that? Is there any of our legislators?
Weld already said no, but it came up again. Not Weld. That's bad. See, I'm thinking we got papers for him the other day. Yeah, Baker.
Thank you.
He vetoed it.
Oh, so it's
Yeah,
on the
but
budget.
But it's
back.
gone through the legislator again. I think it's going to go through the House, and it's going back on his
But
desk.
they're vetoing it, or?
He vetoed it originally, but it's
Okay.
gone back through.
Yeah.
So getting it back, it's one of the many bills that they're getting back through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
but there's
And they have
not a
5
lot of
days.
hope.
I think there's 5 more days to this.
It got
session.
through the Senate, it's going to go, I don't know if it went to the House. Do you know if it went to the House yet? But
Yeah, I haven't
it'll
heard
probably end
anything
up
about
back in front of him, and we'll see what he does then.
Do we need a motion on this, Madam Chairman, or
We absolutely do, Mr. Clark.
would you like me to do it, or somebody would like to do it?
I'll do it. Make a motion that we approve moving the presidential election on November 8th to the high school, as well as sending out the postcards.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, with your pardon here, I see 3.5. We have some other business with town clerk. Would it be all right with you if we move that up to get that out of the way so she can go to her
That's
other
absolutely
duties?
fine with me.
Which one is that? Is that?
Surplus.
The surplus, it's not the appointments? Okay.
So we'll move to agenda item 3.5, review approve the following items to be declared as surplus. We have an HPC 31668 printer, a Canon Image Runner 3570. That was in the mail room, right?
Right.
And 3 AccuVote voting tabulators and 2 black boxes to be offered to other municipalities. So again, the assistant town clerk, but I do not have any financial gain in declaring these surplus. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the town clerk's request to declare the following items surplus: HP 3166A printer, the copy machine that's sitting in room 2, which everybody's seen, and the 3 AccuVote voting tabulators and 2 black bases to be offered to other municipalities.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And just work with Jim to see if there's any value at all. I don't believe so, but
Yeah, okay.
usually it costs us money to...
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I know that you and Cindy like to be very efficient in our agendas here. Would 4.1 be all right with you two to move up at this time to handle?
Thank
He
you.
is really slave driving.
I saw, I mean,
Yes, he's organized.
she mentioned the appointments.
He's aware. Wow.
So 4.1, appoint the attached list of election officials for a one-year term effective August 1st, 2016 to July 31st, 2017. And Cindy, it's up to you if you want to read all the election officials or if you want to approve as the attached lists.
There's quite a few of them because of the presidential, and some of them work half-days.
I seem to have misplaced my list anyways, but...
It's in the back because
I
it was...
know, I had it. Anyway, but I'm fine, I've looked it over, so I make a motion that we appoint the attached list of election officials for one-year term effective August 1st through July 1st, 2017.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Top thing. I was looking below, I was on top.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
We even got some business done. That's nice. So our next appointment's at 6:20, but Eno is with us. Do you want to move it up a few minutes? Okay, so come on up. It's 2.1. Eno called me to discuss the Harbor Fire Station with us.
Handles. These are pictures of the old fire station that's in the harbor.
Oh, that one.
I also have a letter that was sent to the Robert Johnson, District Fire Warden, in the DCR, Department of Conservation and Recreation, and it's signed by Greg Barnes, saying that, yeah, you guys can do that, but you have to maintain the building. The building has not been touched in 20 years, I don't have to except to extend it out about a foot, and I don't know who did that.
Okay, so when Eno came and spoke to me, we went and we pulled the file, and we did look at the lease. It is a self-renewing lease, but it's been in effect since 2006. I'm not sure how many years that can stay as a self-renewing lease. I didn't think...
It doesn't have an expiration
Without it.
date.
There should have been a town meeting vote for it.
Absolutely.
And there may have been, I don't recall. Actually, I think there was.
I remember when we did it, I don't remember.
Yeah, so we'll have to look into making sure that that's still... But it does say that they've agreed to make repairs to the building, maintain the site in the same condition as they are at the commencement of the term, or as they may be put in during the term of this memorandum of understanding, reasonable wear and tear, damage by fire, and other casualty only accepted. To make normal repairs and maintenance, the department shall be responsible for maintaining the grounds, for removing snow and ice from the sidewalk bordering the building located on the site. The department shall not permit the site to be overloaded, damaged, stripped, or defaced, nor suffer any waste. So I know that we had received complaints before, and that's when Greg had sent this letter out in 2009. You know, he made some phone calls and talked to him, but he did this as a follow-up, just so everybody was on the same page. So,
I considered suggesting the Historic District Commission send a letter to these folks, but the agreement was made with the Selectmen, so probably HDC should not get involved yet.
So, with my board's permission, I'd like to ask our town administrator to get in touch with Robert Johnson and share our concerns, and maybe take a look at the lease and the self-renewing clause and make sure we're compliant with the law on that.
Absolutely.
There is a lot of rot on there, from what I can tell.
It's mostly paint is an issue, and that I don't know who extended the building back for a foot.
I saw that. I don't know who did it.
That was a while ago. But it is I would say, a historic building in town. And
Is this one outside?
that's outside. That's the back wall. If you put those two together,
Oh, I see, okay.
See how they kind of...
take these two together.
So they added, this is an addition, so to speak,
Sort of.
which they must have done in order to fit something in there.
Yeah, well, I didn't think of it this side, but
Oh.
that's what it looks like on the ground.
Oh, I see. That's awful.
It's all bare plywood.
That's raw
The back of
plywood.
the building. But it's all bare plywood.
It's just
It's a big deal.
yeah, but just coming off, and this is falling, this is getting into the,
Yep, and the
Structure.
slate on the roof was patched by someone, but it's not patched with the slate.
and it's still leaking.
Not probably, I don't. I've looked at it several times.
So maybe if Jim could set up a meeting with Robert Johnson and do an assessment of where we're at on that, I don't know. We can take it from there and keep in the loop.
Yeah, I'd like to
Just to do it together, yeah.
Thank you.
I have one, as an aside, I do know someone in the hierarchy of DCR that might be of some value as to who to point us to.
Okay.
Madam Chair? Hold on 1 second, if you don't mind. I'm on a roll tonight, so. Before we had this meeting, we had a joint meeting with the Recreation Commission. And during that, I had recognized all the work that they had done over there for the people, the cameras were on. And it's sort of strange that you came in here. And I think it's appropriate time, every time since I've been elected, I drive around town, see things going on. So when people talk about issues, I can understand what they're talking about, at least attempt to. And on numerous times I've stopped into locations that you've been working at, whether it was through the Historical Society for our town, or through the, what's the correct name for the senior work program?
Tax work-off?
The tax work-off. And I will tell you, I've walked in and seen this gentleman here for the tax work-off, tearing rugs up, doing, so it's that program. If we could put on the agenda just to see if we could, maybe, I don't know what's possible, down the road, to just see if we can amp it up, because I'm so convinced. I've seen him, I've seen Donna Miller, and there's even, I drive around for a year every day, and there's even a gentleman in a blue pickup truck I see going almost every day for a couple hours over the cemetery park and building over there, and these people are just doing great work for us for little money, and it's helping them in their... So thank you for your service, all right? It's appreciated for the historical side. The historical part down there is what Townsend's about. When you first drive in, people that don't know Townsend, and I see you out there at night times with your nice bandana on and stuff.
That's all free work down there.
I know it's free work, and that's why I'm trying to, we don't acknowledge the great people in this town enough. So that's what I'm trying to do now. But I would also totally believe in the tax work-off for the seniors, because I've actually seen what a benefit is for the seniors, but more important, for the taxpayers. We're getting a lot of stuff that we get done. So thank you, and every other I apologize, I don't know all the names of the people working that, but I just want to recognize them, so thank you.
Good?
We're good.
Thank you.
So we'll go down to meeting business 3.1, review approve a road opening permit application from Unitil for work at the following locations. We have 17 Joyce Street, 3 Scott Road, 21 Blood Road, and 13 Depot Street. Did we have any questions on the road opening?
Make a motion to approve the road opening permit application for Unitil for work at 17 Joyce, 3 Scott Road, 21 Blood Road, and 13 Depot Street.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
3.2, review approve the highway superintendent Ed Kukla's request to declare the following items surplus. We have 42 traffic cones that are damaged and do not meet the manual of uniform traffic control devices, current standard with scrap value only. We have 67 traffic signs that are damaged and do not meet the manual of uniform traffic control devices, current standard with scrap value only, and one 1999 Minolta EP 1031F copier with no value.
I just have one question. These are going to would be turned in for scrap, and the money would be, would this be sold as scrap metal, scrap?
If there's any, well, I don't know if the cones would have, they do have some metal, so any.
I mean, the traffic signs have a whole bunch of...
Yeah.
I mean, it's
And they
steel, it's
probably
not
go
that, but there's a couple of dollars
Yeah.
that would come back. Would that come
Traffic
back?
cones are actually
Becomes general fund
It
receipt.
would come back to the general fund.
Yeah. And you can always see every year the highway department, they bring in, I don't know, what,
okay.
about $4,000 or $5,000 a year in scrap.
Oh, good. You ready for a motion?
Please.
Make a motion that we approve Highway Superintendent Ed Kukla's request to declare the following items surplus: 42 traffic cones, 67 traffic signs, and one 1999 Minolta EP 1031F copier.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, sir.
If I could, through you, just ask the town administrator, when he does this update, if he could just mention that him and the highway superintendent are working on revamping our fees at this time for road closures. And the other thing is that through him and the highway superintendent, they've set up some work zone safety, which is, he knows more about it, but will protect the public and our employees and also our exposed liability. So I would just, I guess that's just if you could
Yeah,
mention
they went to
that.
some trainings.
Yeah, so he knows a lot more about it, but it brought to me when I saw those things there. I think it's important.
No, it's a good update.
Thank you.
I know they just went to a training, so we can talk about that.
Thank you.
Okay, so next on the agenda is 3.3, review approved Chapter 90 project request for milling North End Road from Brookline Road to New Hampshire border in the amount of $244,417.
These are completed already, right?
No, it's a project request.
Oh, it's a project request, okay.
So
Oh,
it's
that's
got to
true,
go through
okay.
the state to be
Okay.
approved.
All right. I'll make a motion that we approve Chapter 90 project request for milling North End Road from Brookline Road to New Hampshire border. Oh, I was thinking it was 13, okay. From North End Road, Brookline Road, from Brookline Road to New Hampshire border for $244,417.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm assuming he's going off that road for the priorities, the road program that we had done, so. 3.4, review approved Chapter 90 project request for milling of Fitchburg Road, Route 13, to South Row Road, in the amount of $163,473.
Make a motion that we approve Chapter 90 project request for milling Fitchburg Road, Route 13 to South Row Road for $163,473.
Okay. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. I can't recall, but did we do a project request for Tyler Road? I know we've had a lot of complaints on that road, and I thought that was pretty high up on the priority list. Maybe look into that.
Do you know where this...
Wouldn't it be terrible if we already approved it and I didn't remember?
Do you know where this starts? Seems to be a small amount of money in comparison to the North End Road. Do you know how long?
Where's South Row Road? So
South
it's on
Row
the
goes-
opposite side, so it would just... Yeah, it would just be that short
This is-
section to Fitchburg.
It also depends on how much...
Oh, Fitchburg Road starts where?
Well, it's the whole thing, Route 13, but
Right.
if you come out where Southborough Row is, kind of like with that Emery, and then go forward up to Fitchburg is where I'm assuming that section's going to be done.
Okay. I just think it wasn't all the way down. Of course, Elm Street, it's Elm Street until you get down.
Yeah.
That's,
Or the three different Elm Streets.
yes.
And turning
Where I
into
have to
Elm
go
Street.
looking for my mail.
Yes. Okay, 3.6, review approve the following one-day liquor licenses for Terry Roy of the VFW Post 6538, and I'm going to recuse myself on this because they are my neighbor, Gordon, so if you'd like to take over.
We would review and approve the following one-day liquor license for Terry Roy of the VFW Post 6538 on the following dates. July 30th, 2016 for a testimonial with serving hours from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. August 27th, 2016 for a 40th birthday party with serving hours from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. September 17th, 2016 for a Jack and Jill with serving hours from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to review or approve the following one-day liquor licenses for the VFW for July 30th, August 27th, and September 17th.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Please note that Chairman Smart recused herself from this vote, please. Madam Chairman, I turn the chairmanship back over to you.
Thank you, Gordon. Okay, so we have 3.8 on our agenda to discuss a community development strategy committee, but we're going to postpone that until our land use coordinator can join us, or as long as we can. So we'll go.
As long as we can.
Yeah, we'll continue on. So we'll go to 4.2. Appoint Kim King to the Townsend Meeting Hall Gallery Committee for a 3-year term, effective July 26, 2016 to June 30th, 2019.
A motion to appoint, Kim King to the Townsend Meeting Hall Gallery Committee for 3-year term effective July 26, 2016 to June 30th, 2019.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Question. Was that just restarted again? Because didn't they do away with the Meeting Hall Gallery Committee?
I'll let Jane speak to that. She's on.
Not the gallery committee, the meeting hall committee was
Okay,
dissolved.
right, okay, got it.
There was a vote to do away with one of them, you're right, but this wasn't it. I believe it's full now, right, Jane? Is that?
I'm sorry?
Is the gallery committee full now? Did you?
I can't speak to that. I don't know. It's
Okay.
a moving target.
Okay. So then we'll move on to 5.1, Town Administrator Updates and Reports.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In your packets and as was posted online, you should see my Town Administrator Report, July 26, 2016. Personnel Update, Section Number 1, Sub A, Land Use Department Reorganization. After a great deal of discussion with Karen Chapman, our current Land Use Coordinator, she and I have come to a joint proposal for what a reorganized Land Use Office should look like. In the following chart, you will see a structure that provides for a full-time department head, 30 hours of administrative support, 25 of which is planning and 5 is zoning, a 20-hour conservation agent, and 15 hours of administrative support for the Conservation Commission. The plan would be to cross-train all personnel to better be able to serve the public and the boards when one employee is unavailable. As the chart shows, we're currently staffed at 88 hours at a cost of $91,964.92. After the change, we would be staffed for 100 hours at a cost of $111,389.58. This increase of $19,424.66 is covered in the town meeting article voted on as an appropriation reserve for wage and hour settlements. To date, the Land Use Coordinator supports this plan, and the Conservation Commission does as well. After an initial meeting with the Planning Board in which they made it clear that they wanted their full 25 hours, Karen and I revised the plan to accommodate their wish, and that is the plan you see here. Additionally, in a further effort at streamlining the land use function, we will be consolidating all staff depicted in the chart into the land use suite, where most of the staff are currently or were currently located. The one major difference is that we'll be proposing moving the town accountant down to the former Conservation Commission office, so she could be co-located with the other finance team members. She would be with the assessors and the treasurer collector. And the conservation staff would come upstairs. This will allow all land use regulatory staff to be in one location to better provide service and office coverage.
The chart you'd see there shows the positions of land use coordinator, administrative support, conservation agent, and administrative support respectively. And the caveat at the bottom that is listed is this is a proposed reorganizational plan, and it's subject to votes of the boards and ultimately union negotiations, which would require your final ratification on the particular numbers contained within the land use coordinator position. So under board action, do you support the plan? And if so, would you please, as a board, move to do so? Not looking for you to support the economics that are listed in that far right column, because those would be subject to negotiation. Just looking conceptually, based on what each board has expressed as their wish. Conservation, that they want 35 hours, and as they have voted now, 20 of those would be agent level, and 15 would be admin level. The planning board wants their 25. This accomplishes that. We would then have the land use coordinator position as a full-time one person, as opposed to having two co-land use coordinators, which is what had existed prior. So it's the belief of Karen, my belief, that this would function a little better, a little more cleanly, and better than we've been doing in terms of actual coverage for the public coming in to do business. So, don't know what the board's thoughts are on that structure.
I'll open it up to questions.
I think that the economics are an important question, because I know there's a lot of people waiting to see. I mean, we've got all the union negotiations, all the contract negotiations going on, and we do have that bucket.
Yep.
And then the non-union employees want to make sure that there's some left for them. So can we get an update on where the bucket is at this point?
Yes, the amount that was put into the bucket, so-called, for this reorganization, if you'll recall back to, I think, the second to the last version of the budget that came out, there was a figure of 23,000 and change of an increase for land use reorganization.
Okay.
This only takes up 19 and change of that. So this comes in some $4 grand lower than had originally been projected.
Okay, so that theoretically, the $4 grand, assuming that the negotiation, because this is a union issue as well.
Correct.
This is at their current.
No, this is the position of administrative support, conservation agent, and administrative support are vacant today, so there are no current recipients of those wages.
But as far as when we go to negotiate salary increases, this does not include that.
My belief is this does include that.
Yes.
My belief is that this is the top side of what those numbers would look like.
This is what the current is. The other three positions
Some of
that you
these go
see-
down.
Yes, because they're matrix employees, and they'd be going down to step 1. The bottom 3 are matrix employees.
Okay.
Which
So,
wouldn't be subject to collective bargaining.
which wouldn't be subject to collective bargaining. So a new employee coming in would start as a step 1 or 2, depending upon experience. So that number is what's on the matrix.
But when maybe I misunderstand how we're doing, not just talking, these are non-union,
Correct.
right?
Simple.
But these are the current rates in the matrix. But when we do
It will be adjusted.
That's
yes.
what I'm saying. So that's what I mean is.
Thank you.
This is
That
pre.
it also is covered.
Pre-
So if these are today's matrix numbers,
Yeah.
and the board makes a decision to either adjust the matrix by a COLA or to
Right.
employ steps, either of those is covered within the existing appropriation in that special
So
article.
we'd still 23 should be plenty to accommodate.
24, well, it's
these-
24 was just for the land use coordinator hours, that particular position. There's also money that was put into that article for a max, in the case of your discussions on matrix employees, of steps, which would be 2.5%. So
Well, that
those
would already be
funds are on there as
incorporated.
well.
I just want to make sure we're not chipping away, and then,
No.
oh, we ran out of money. I just want to make sure that the people that are concerned about these things know that we still have, the bucket is still almost intact. We've taken some things out, but this is still accounted for in the plan for the bucket.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And it may be that it's less than this when negotiation is finished.
Right.
This would be the top end.
Right, okay.
Madam Chairman, just if I could, for you, have some clarification from Mr. Crowler. If we could go to where it says sample motion,
Yep.
and then there's, on the top of the next page, you'll see where I just want to make sure I understand this. Usually, it says department head. Am I reading this right? But I can do mine.
I don't know.
Just give us a second here, folks. So,
It looks like you're missing a page. There you go.
all right, thank you. Well, when it comes to contracts and wording, I get very,
No, just don't.
he knows that already, so.
That'd
Thank
be
you for
interesting.
that. It did make sense when I was going.
That would make it interesting.
It was saying, okay,
What?
thank you for that.
It actually flows, too.
No, it does, it
I
looks like
know.
it belongs there, that's why.
Yeah.
I
It does.
said, but
Can we do
it-
page numbers next time on the...
No, I wasn't trying to, but I really get into contract law, and I go, okay, this flows, but doesn't make sense to me.
It
So-
does, it goes right with
All
it.
right, thank you for that.
So the sample motion,
Are you taking questions from the floor on this, or is it just?
After our discussion, if somebody has a question, I'll answer to the best of our ability.
It's a simple question when you're ready.
Go ahead.
Thanks.
Let me get my thing back here. So, help me understand this, Jim, please, is that you're looking for support to proceed in reorganization of this department,
Correct.
subject to a further ratification vote from the board and collective bargaining, correct?
and that would be specifically for that top position.
Okay.
The others are matrix positions. They currently exist, have been approved in our classification and compensation plan. I did speak with the land use coordinator today, and it was her wish that we advertise for these sooner than later, because right now she's carrying the load for nearly the entirety of the department. So the one thing that is subject to collective bargaining is that first box, the land use coordinator position. So what I'm asking for is, do you support this proposal to reorganize the land use function along the lines of that middle box, listing of land use office positions?
All the boards, the boards that have signed off on this, this is...
The planning board has not yet voted. The first presentation did not include a full 25 hours for the planning board.
Oh, okay.
They made themselves clear they want their 25. Karen and I went back, reworked the plan to give them their 25, but that's yet to come back before them. So the Conservation Commission has voted. The planning board has forecasted what their want was. This accomplishes what their want was, giving them their 25.
Do we know when they're meeting again?
I do not know.
Do we know?
So I very much support the plan. It's something I think will be very good not only for the employees but for folks doing business in town. It also will allow for better organization of the files. You can incorporate the planning and the zoning and conservations together. It'll be good, cut down on research. Also allow for better coverage. I know many years ago, I think this is how it was outlined. We had a full-time land use coordinator and a full-time land use assistant. It's a little broke up a little differently, but I think it'll work. And in regards to the money, 3 of them are matrix employees and the other subject to negotiation, so I would just be looking for a motion to actually support the plan. And I know, Jane, you had a question?
I did. Did you want to?
Yep, that's fine.
Just a couple. I did read that online, and it was just a little confusing because it was the first time, so I'm assuming you're approving the concept, and there may be some tweaks or something.
Absolutely. With feedback from the boards.
Okay, and then just a refresher, what did the bucket start at? I know we voted at a town meeting, it was something like 109?
109.
Was it 109?
Correct.
And this, Cindy referred to it as chipping away. This is 23 is a chip out of that 109? Has anything else been chipped out?
It
This
would-
is keeping score.
Right, it would not be 24 and change is what was budgeted or programmed into that article.
Yeah.
If this were implemented today, as it's written, it would only be 19,000 spent out of that, so there would be $4 grand plus excess left in that article.
Okay.
But what also has been taken out of there, obviously, is the contract that was negotiated by the board and me. So that too was programmed in the bucket and was expected, whether it was going to be me or some other candidate, to be available on the floor for negotiations. So the only thing that's been taken to date is my contract, and if this were to go forward, it would be coming in at $4 grand roughly less than had been projected.
Okay. And your contract was?
120, 188, I believe.
One more time, one what?
120,188, I believe, was the salary number.
But was that an adjustment, or we only started with 109, right?
Oh, no, not the entirety of that, no.
That's what I wanted to know,
I
how much
apologize.
has been chipped from the bucket?
20,000.
20,
Yeah.
okay. And are the positions on the concept program, are they new or just retitled? Like land use, we do have a land use administrator, or did, right?
They
Are
exist.
there any new positions or just renaming, reorganizing?
End of the day, you'll end up with one additional person, not full-time, but one additional person available for coverage issues. Because most recently you had the conservation agent doing both the agent work and the admin work. This proposal breaks that up into 2 people. So you have the same number of hours, but broken out into 2 bodies.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I think the grand scheme here is, with the bucket money, is to have change back. After all the negotiations, the plan is not to, oh, we ran out of money, which I know some people are concerned about. But, I mean, we don't want, the plan is not to run out of the bucket, okay? The plan is to have change back, to go back into the general fund, okay? Right?
The less levy that we have to tax, the
That's
happier
right,
I am.
that's right.
Got it. I got it. Thanks. Thanks for your patience.
Oh, anytime. So again, I'll entertain a motion.
Oh, make a motion. I move that the board vote in support of the proposed land use department reorganization plan as described by the town administrator. And should I add subject to negotiation?
Sure.
Subject to negotiation?
Second.
Did you have any other questions for me?
No, I just want to make sure, and I think that covers it because of the extensive work Mr. Crowley did here, but it's very important that there's a part that has to be worked out, because there's a lot of moving parts about it with the negotiations. Not that we can't do it, but that there's a lot of moving parts here. And I'm sure with Mr. Crowley's skill, we can get to that point. But people need to know that it's not done yet, because that involves more than one person. It's the whole unit. So the whole unit has to agree to give another employee more money, not them. But that's for negotiations. Okay? So I'm good with that. Second, thank you.
So Karen, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to thank you as well. I know you worked hard on the proposal and worked with Jim to get through. Do you like the concept of having everybody in one area for the organization purposes? Yes. Okay. Good. I'm happy with it. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So, I can or can't post the positions tomorrow?
It's fine with me.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason not to.
Okay.
They exist in the matrix already. They're funded. The only curveball that could come is on August 8th. If the planning board says something different than we support 25 hours that we've currently got programmed, which I can't imagine will happen because it's what was asked for, that would be the only potential question. But in terms of conservation, those 2 positions have been voted by the commission. They can be posted. So they've been agreed to. They've been budgeted, so we're good to go there. Just the planning board is one loose piece.
What about that brings up an interesting the job descriptions, because I know when we had the classification plan done again, it was 1 position. They combined the 2. Are we going to just use the previous 2 job descriptions when it was?
That's what we've done.
Okay.
I did job descriptions for both of those.
Okay, good. So that's all set. And then just let us know if you want to have any type of committee, or if you just work with Jim and pick out who you want to hire.
I'll have the boards involved.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wait a minute.
Oh,
Hold
no
on.
running away.
Can we divert back to 3 point whatever it was?
Yeah, we're waiting on Karen. So.
Yeah, you don't mind interrupting the middle of your... Yeah.
3.8.
We're going to go back up to 3.8, discuss establishing a community development strategy committee as well as a follow-up with MRPC on the CDBG grant. And this was a request from Cindy, so I'm going to let her take it and discuss it.
Okay, last meeting, or the last couple meetings, I had reported that we did not get the CDBG grant that we had gone into with Shirley. That one did not win over the powers that be that approved that. And I went to see MRPC to find out, see what I could find out about, what what can we do better? Is there something that was lacking that maybe we can improve on or find out, what happened? And they went over some of the numbers with me. They did not give a report, anything in writing back to us. I don't think, they didn't give us, with some of the scoring. But it's a state committee that does the approvals, but we didn't get enough points. It's by points. And some of the issues that, well, the number one issue was lack of community involvement, which MRPC was not happy to hear those remarks, because they felt that there was more than they were giving us credit for. But we did get over 100 applications, I think, within the community to get some of the benefits of that grant, as well as more from Shirley. But they recommended that one of the things that helps get more points on some of these grant applications, which are many grants that are available that we can get through regional or through planning means, is to have a committee in the towns, which a lot of cities and towns have, to put everybody's heads together on a number of issues called to discuss the community development strategy, which we have a community development strategy, which includes the master plan and includes a lot of, I'll say, heads to put together on different things that the needs of the community, and to evaluate how to do things together. And we do have a lot of people interested in a lot of different things, but it seems to be piecemeal. Like, oh, what are we going to do with the Common? What are we going to do with the Hart Library? What are we going to do with sidewalks? What are we going to do? And it's a lot of great ideas, but it kind of, if you did them all, nothing would necessarily fit. It's like having 5 puzzles on the table and trying to figure out which pieces go to what puzzle. But a community development strategy committee would put some people together that can really think about what's going on, what we need, and to develop things or request monies through planning grants, which MRPC can still assist us with creating more of these. And we're focused on what that community involvement is. And a committee like this does include members of the community, as well as key players that are knowledgeable in the areas such as planning, housing, and a couple other areas that if we could get people from those committees to participate in this. But I'd like to propose, and MRPC said we should do this sooner than later, because we can get that committee on board and begin the process to get a planning grant, as an example, in the fall. So I know summer is a horrible time to try to put committees together, but we seem to be on a roll here getting some committees filled up. So I'd like to propose that we put a community development strategy committee together to look at this, and just certainly want Karen's input. I talked to her briefly and we talked about this, but I'd like to see a Selectmen's representative, which I volunteer to participate in, someone from possibly planning, someone from housing, and if there's another committee that I'm failing to think of as important on this, as well as some community members. I'm thinking a representative from each of the corners of Townsend, such as one from West, one from Center, and one from the Harbor. MRPC had recommended possibly people of low to moderate income, because some of the things that get talked about on these is things that would benefit and make the community more accessible to people that can walk such to downtown areas, and make the community more accessible to everyone. And they had mentioned low to moderate income. I'm not that's not a requirement. It's just a consideration. But rather than ask people to do a financial application to get on a committee, I was thinking, unless Karen has other thoughts, to ask someone from each of the corners, West, Center, and Harbor, to go on such a committee. So I don't know.
When we do the posting, we can always say looking for somebody so that they know.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get more than one from each area.
Any further thoughts on it, Karen? I covered it? Okay. All right.
Does the strategic planning grant, will that help you to work on the community development that we get, the technical grants that we usually get every year through MRPC? Will that help at all?
Oh, the district local technical assistance?
Yeah.
We are in the middle of one of those right now, updating our zoning bylaws.
Okay, so that's going to go for them. Well, maybe there's another.
But they have it, that's twice a year. We can just keep applying for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this committee, I'm kind of nicknaming it the Grant Committee, as a nickname, just a personal, not an official name, but because there's just so many planning-type grants that affect different corners of the community that this committee can put things in perspective and put it together and participate in that community development or community involvement to not independently, but with the cooperation and conversation with the boards that would be involved in this. Like this committee would not just go off and decide what kind of things we need to be done in the community and independently make those decisions, but to be able to go back to planning, zoning, selectmen, and the towns. There might be times that town meeting would have to vote on certain ideas or grant applications or the use of these grants. So, but it's a place where community can really be involved and know what's going on, as opposed to trying to follow, well, planning's doing this and zoning's doing this and the selectmen are doing the one spot. So.
Well, you're going to have to come up with a name.
Community Development Strategy Committee for the official.
Okay.
Madam Chair, on that point, when you submit your CDBG application, they are looking for the Community Development Committee, the Strategy Committee, they're looking for backup that shows that there have been meetings where it's been discussed.
Absolutely.
So there is a sign-up sheet going around tonight.
Oh, good.
When you started talking, I put one out. So that then becomes part of the application to show that in this meeting it was brought up and these many people were in the room and it was televised live, and then every time it's brought up again, and then when it is in fact appointed and it meets, there will be those sign-in sheets just to show that it's not just something that was done on paper.
And that is an important appendix to any report or any grant application as well.
I know they constantly go right after Jody saying, can we have those minutes as soon as they come meet with us for that purpose, because it helps us with the points.
Yep. And there's a question.
Go ahead.
Just a clarification on 3.8, is that Montechusett Regional Planning Commission?
Yes, it looks like the letters are transcribed.
Okay, I just wondered, because I'm on that
Yeah, MRCP.
as far as Montechusett Regional Trails Coalition, which is a subset of it. And I've talked to the town administrator and the conservation person, the only one you have over there, and about what we're trying to do is connect every town by trails.
Sure.
And how they're basically economically can benefit and all. And we were going to be presenting that to the selectmen in some way to try to get everybody to be on the same page from Ashburnham to Lancaster or whatever. So I just was curious about the acronym. I wasn't sure what that was.
And I think that what you're doing would be a good inclusion to present to this committee once they get off the ground, so that there is a centralized location to move things that involve different parts of the community, even other communities, to get those things through. I think that would be...
Madam Chair, one additional or final point for me would be, when you have a CDBG grant and you do housing rehab cases, by example, there's a lien placed on the house, and if the house sells within a time period, those funds are recaptured and they become what's called program income. Karen and I have been talking about the fact that we have roughly $70,000 in program income that, for instance, the Board of Health wasn't aware of, and wasn't aware of the fact that there are projects that they're interested in doing to benefit citizens who may be low mod, which qualifies them, who need work done on their property that is otherwise eligible, that these funds are available. So if you have this group of people together with representation across all the boards and commissions, that's the type of stuff that wouldn't fall through the cracks necessarily. So that's another kind of offshoot of this.
Yeah, when I heard about it, I thought this was... I'm excited about this because it's an opportunity. There's so many things that since I've lived here that things get dropped.
Yeah.
And we learned since being a selectman, there's so many things. Oh yeah, I remember that 10 years ago, and it was voted on and just kind of filtered with changes of people, and I think this would be a good place to keep track of things.
Well, I'm entertaining a motion.
I'll make a motion if I to establish the Community Development Strategy Committee and get it posted with those positions. Should that be part of the...
Yep.
Sure.
That the planning, housing, selectmen's representative, and one member of the community from the three.
So that would be 6 members. You might want to go with one more. You never want even.
Board of Health.
Okay.
Board of Health representative?
Board of Health. Oh, wait, Karen.
I just want to mention that you may not get participation from board members
Okay.
because there's been so many
I know.
committees and they're like, I'm tapped out on committees. So it may be that you have to shift more to citizens at large if you don't.
Or leave it
You know,
open
some
that...
citizens can be a representative of the planning board.
That's what I was thinking, we just leave it open so that you could
wanna
pick
leave it-
one.
So,
I mean, you can solicit the boards.
yeah,
You could just
And
word
they
it, representatives selected by the planning board, representatives selected by the Board of Health.
but I certainly,
Either
I
one
mean,
of them or
there's so
someone on
much
behalf.
that this is a planning kind of committee that I definitely, I just want to be clear that with whoever we put on the posting or discuss that they're not being left out, that their input and everything would need to be brought into the conversation on anything that this committee does anyway. But if we want to have just 6 members of the community plus the selectmen's rep, is that?
Well, I think it's still good to have a representative because it can be a community at large, but they're there representing the planning board and, you know, they'll go...
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean?
So
I think your idea is good.
planning board representative.
It doesn't necessarily
Not
mean
necessarily.
that...
Oh, right. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's fine. Planning board rep, housing rep, board of health rep,
Selectmen's rep.
selectmen's rep,
And 3 community.
and 3 community. That makes 7.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to try that motion over?
Okay. Make a motion that we're establish Community Development Strategy Committee with members representing the Board of Selectmen, Planning Board, Board of Health, and Housing. You look concerned.
I'm just thinking that when that was written for this CDBG grant, we included goals and objectives from the Open Space and Recreation Plan, which is under the Conservation Commission purview. And we put in from the Housing Production Plan, goals from that, and we stuck in other goals that just sort of out there. So it's important to have conservation and housing.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, sir.
If I could just input here, the first thing I'd like to do is thank personally Cindy for the a lot of work you've done here, and I'm just seeing it now, so thank you for that. And it's nice to have, when one of us takes something on, we have a passion. And I can tell you that's your passion.
I'm excited.
Yeah, well, no, but we all have things we do, and I think when someone takes the football, they really have a thing. They can do a better job as long as everyone else supports them, so I want to thank you for that. And I'm having a thought here, and just throwing it out here to make it more efficient, is that during the next week or so of you, Mr. Kryler, and our expert over there could work out the exact description of this committee and put it on for the next meeting first thing, have it all set pretty and tight, and we'll just say yes to it then.
Yeah, 'cause I think we should give it a charge, a specific charge.
And maybe put it in our packets, so we have a day or two before, and then we can come back and have feedback. Receive not, you come in here, boom, boom, but it'll be tight and clean. That's just a suggestion. I don't know how you feel.
When are we meeting again?
Next regularly scheduled meeting will be the 2nd week of August. I don't have any plans to meet next week.
I just think it'd give a chance for you 3 experts who have a lot into it to have it nice and
Because then
tight.
we're getting into
get it
the
right.
fall when we have to actually be doing grants and not...
Well, I mean, if you
discussing.
want to actually vote it, we can always schedule a quick 5-minute meeting next Tuesday and get it. Because when you post it, you need to put the charge, the specific charge with it. So I think Gordon's right in that sense. Work with Karen, have it come up with a specific charge, and maybe instead of a Board of Health, a Conservation Commission representative. That might be...
And my goal's not to sorry for interrupting. My goal's not to damper it. I'm 100% for it.
Okay.
I just want you to have a
Okay, so
foundation so
just
you don't have to come back to
develop
us.
the- okay.
And so
All right.
you have the passion, and these two
Okay.
have expertise. As long as I get in my packet the day before, if I have any questions, I'll go see Mr. Crowley. All right? Does that make sense?
All right, we'll
Well, tell me if it
Table
does.
it. We'll table
Okay.
the approval and the posting of the committee for the next
So we'll
meeting,
just-
but we all support the concept.
All right, we'll write the
All right,
paragraph for the
Mr.
charge and finalize who we think should be on that.
Yeah, because people want to know exactly what they're doing before they send in a volunteer response form. I mean, they get the general idea. But
And it's not reinventing the wheel. We'll be able to find a charge pretty quickly
Oh, yeah,
online, so it's...
yeah, not a big deal.
Great.
All right.
So we'll table this to the next. Thank you, Karen.
Back to administrative updates.
Yes.
Okay. Madam Chair, still under personnel updates. This is something that I received just yesterday electronically from an agency in the Commonwealth that I was going to put in a little bit later, but because the question of the bucket came up, the timing seems right to do it now. So I just wanted to bring to the board's attention and those following along in the room and at home that I received a writing from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts State Ethics Commission. And it came to me just yesterday. It is addressed to me and signed by Catherine Gallant, Deputy Chief of Investigations. And it reads, "Dear Mr. Kreidler, as you know, we discussed with you concerns that you allowed an employee who is also a sitting selectman to retain accrued vacation time to which she was not entitled, and that you included funds in a town meeting article to raise the salary of the town administrator when you were a candidate for the position. Relying on what you told us and on any necessary follow-up investigation, including a review of pertinent documents, we are satisfied that this matter does not require any further action on our part. Thank you for your cooperation. Very truly yours, Catherine E. Gallant, Deputy Chief Investigations." Because this has gotten, as an issue, has gotten some public play, you know, the inference that there is an investigation of the town administrator regarding his ethics, I thought it only appropriate to have a public reading of the results of that ethics investigation. So that is listed as confidential, but the recipient of the document from the Ethics Commission has the ability to release it. So I do choose to make this a public document. So if anybody has an interest in it, I do have a copy.
And just to clarify, that's the accusation that was made. That's not...
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was an accusation, apparently, according to Ms. Gallant, that a sitting selectman was allowed to get something she wasn't entitled to. That was the allegation, which isn't the fact. And apparently the second allegation was that it was unethical for me to have budgeted or participated in the creation of a budget item that contained an amount of money that was then subsequently negotiated for the position that I'm sitting in. And they determined that neither of those were violations of the conflict of interest law or ethics in Massachusetts.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Just to say a quick thing here is that it appears to me in the short time Mr. Crowder's been working here, every time his integrity, his ethics, his totally professional capabilities have been questioned, after investigations, after hearings, and after the facts that come forward, I'm more impressed every single day that we're lucky enough to have this man working here. So I hope at some point we can just get back to allowing him to do his job, because he's been such an improvement. The town's so lucky to have him. And I personally want to say thank you to him, and also I'm sorry that his integrity is always questioned. And every single time his integrity is above reproach. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Corey. I want to continue.
Yes, moving on to B, DPW Study Committee. Selectman Clark, as your voted representative to the committee, and I met with the DPW Study Committee on July 14th for a reintroduction and to lay some process rules down to best enable the committee to move forward and to address the issue. It was a productive meeting, and all members voted unanimously to adopt rules. Future meetings, all of which are public, will be held on Wednesdays, opposite conservation meetings, with the next one being called for August 3rd at 6:30 p.m. Board action requested? None. Section C, appointing authority. Since I've been serving as your town administrator, I've been slowly untangling where and to whom certain responsibilities run and lie. The appointing authority of personnel is one such matter. The Charter in Section 3.2 sub D, appointing authority, lists several positions and board and committees that are to be appointed by the Selectmen. The Charter in Section 4.2 sub A states that the town administrator shall be, quote, responsible for the efficient administration of all functions or activities for which the town administrator is given authority, responsibility, or control by the Charter, by bylaw, town meeting vote, vote of the Board of Selectmen, or otherwise. Vote of Board of Selectmen is emphasized, and that's my emphasis. The personnel policies, as voted by the Board of Selectmen at Article 2, Board of Selectmen, state that the Board of Selectmen is charged with setting personnel policies and procedures. This same article under Town Administrator states, the Town Administrator, in conjunction with department heads, shall be responsible for all recruitment and selection, as outlined in this manual. Furthermore, there is a legal opinion of Town Council on file, drafted back in 2002 by then Town Council June Riddle, Esquire, on the subject of the Board's appointing authority powers. In it, she states that, quote, the Selectmen do not become involved in day-to-day administration of town agencies. As such, the Board's appointing authority for rank-and-file employees is in the nature of an, I'm not going to pronounce that word because I've tried several times and I struggle, imprimatur, my best guess. Basically, what that is saying is it's a formality. It's an affirmation of an official act. So how do we read this all together into one process? The board is by charter the appointing authority for certain positions. The board appoints a town administrator to carry out its day-to-day functions. The board is the chief policy-setting body. The board is charged with creating personnel policies. The board did create such policies. In those policies, the board drafted and voted to accept. The board delegated recruitment and selection process to the town administrator in conjunction with department heads, supervisors. Per council, the board's appointing authority is in the nature of sanction, approval, or support. Sanction, approval, and support can clearly only apply to an action already taken, therefore read together as an organic whole. We'd see the town administrator having been delegated appointing authority, being charged to work with the department head to recruit, select, and appoint personnel, all subject to a vote or ratification, if you will, by the board before said appointment is finalized. Under board action, let's discuss this, and please let me know your thinking as it becomes very germane in the next item in my report. So, to kind of come off the page for a second, since I've been here, there have been a number of times where there have been actions that I thought the policies or the charter were yours, and I've been advised that they were the town administrator position, and vice versa. Appointing authority is one that's going to continue to come up. There's some others that I'd like to get to in subsequent meetings with you. But this one here, it's not uncommon in town administrator chartered positions or town manager chartered positions to have the appointing authority for a specific list of positions vested with the select board. Those would generally be the big ones: police chief, fire chief, DPW director, town administrator, town accountant, treasurer collector. The rank and file, to go back to Attorney Riddle's opinion, would then be the jurisdiction of the town administrator in consultation with department heads. In some cases, period, it stops there. It's appointed, hired, selected at that staff level, and you don't have any involvement at all. I wouldn't recommend that be the case, and I know, I'm sure you and I have talked about this a little bit, and I think we disagree a little bit on it. My thinking would be, and it's not uncommon in language in charters and in policies and other positions, that any appointment that is to be done at the administrative level always be subject to a vote of affirmation of the chief executive board. That way there, it just keeps everything very public, because your meetings can only be held publicly, and gives you the opportunity to be completely informed about who's coming in the door and is going to be taking the reins on a particular position. The way it's traditionally written is that the administrator would have the appointing authority for XYZ positions, and subject to a vote of affirmation by the board, unless the board shall, within some number of days, generally 15, which gives you the window to have one of your regular meetings, unless the board shall, within 15 days, vote by a majority to reject the appointment. So that way there, you still retain rights to say, that's a bad deal, you don't know the history of this person, or you don't know the history of the position. But it always just gives the out to the board to be able to be the final say. It also traditionally would say, if 15 days goes by and there's no action, it has the effect of an affirmation. So, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but moving forward, it's going to become important to nail this stuff down.
I actually asked Jim to discuss this, because it seems like under every administration it's different. Our charter outlines specifically what the board appoints, and the board appoints it so they're sworn in. The rank and file, as she puts it, are hired, per se. They're not sworn in. They don't take the oath. In some positions under Mass General Law are appointed by the elected board or committee. For, I think, library trustees is one, council on aging is one, Board of Health is one, town clerk is one. So there's checks and balances in all your municipalities. I would just like to have clear, concise policy going forward, because it's not fair to the department heads when it changes every few years. Some boards want to appoint everybody. some boards just want to appoint what they're authorized to appoint in the charter, and the rest of them are just hired, in that the department head, say the building inspector's hiring an assistant, he hires her, you sign off on that hiring. So I just like clear, consistent policy going forward so that there's no confusion. And I don't care how it is, as long as it's consistent.
Was this letter our current charter, relating to our current charter?
Yes. This comes up in every administration.
I know every Board of Selectmen
you know,
has
it always seems simple
debated
to
it.
me in that you appoint what you're authorized to appoint in your charter, and the people are sworn in, and everybody else is hired with the approval of the department head and the town administrator, and then he updates us, hey, we hired 3 temporary workers for cemetery and parks, or we hired all the rec counselors. I mean, ordinarily, those kinds of things don't come to us for appointment. But it's applied inconsistently. It has in the past, so.
My only hope would be that we put it in writing as a voted policy of the board, which any future board has the ability to change. It's your policy as a board. And I have that, or whoever's in this chair has that to govern how they go forward. I would, and I say this strongly, I would suggest you retain the right to affirm. It's just
Ratify hiring.
right. It could be that you just never do, and the language would say that after 15 days, the appointment is affirmed. Right. It just gives you the ability to reach in without it becoming an act of Congress. It's built into the policy. So what I propose is I could draft something from existing policies in other communities that lays this out, have it in your packets for your next meeting for your consideration. Your policy currently on the creation of policies requires that you have a discussion of it. You can't vote it unless by unanimous vote the first meeting, so that it would have a second reading at the next meeting. So, I mean, it'd be a couple meetings before you get this done unless you felt strongly enough about it to do it unanimously at the next meeting. But my judgment is there needs to be something in writing that's a lot clearer than trying to cobble all of these documents together and follow a string.
There's no sense of urgency, but it would be nice to have clear, concise pathways. So, when you have a department head meeting, everybody knows, what occurs. Because, like I said, some boards want to hire, appoint everybody, and other boards, the department head hires and he signs off on the change of status.
And this is interpreted and reinterpreted depending on who's in these chairs.
Exactly.
So if we can do something that's
So if you want
much
to
more
draft
correct.
something, and we will review it, and then, like you said, it's a board policy, so it's subject to, maybe the next board wants to change it. My hope is not. My hope is once there's a pathway, people will follow it. But did you want to say anything, Gordy? Because I know.
I did,
Okay.
actually. Actually, I don't, wherever way it works, but I have something to say. So
Okay.
you go which way you want, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Jerry.
When you're talking about the charter, is this the charter that you worked on about 5 years ago? And was that charter ever adopted, or is that the 1999 charter?
This is the charter that's been in effect. You're talking about the charter review recommendations that came back last year?
Right. Did that
No.
it never did get adopted?
No.
Meet the
Why?
town meeting.
It goes to town meeting.
So it goes to...
Yeah, and we haven't even met with the charter review committee to go over some specific things. Yeah, if it goes forward. Because it wasn't created in accordance with the charter, so we're having a little bit of issue with that as well, because the charter outlines how the committee has to be created and the processes, and that committee was not in accordance with the charter. It was almost like an ad hoc.
So does it need to be all done over again?
Yeah. It goes to town meeting for it to follow the steps.
There's no reason that a new committee being put together in compliance with the charter can't take that document and say, this is our starting ground. They wouldn't need to, but they could. Because some work has been done.
That's a little confusing because, they did all that work, and you were on that, Carolyn, weren't you? No?
I was.
Cindy was.
And that was quite a lot of work to put together and whatnot. Why? I guess I'm not getting why it wasn't presented.
Well, we met with Don Klein, and I think you were on the board then too, Cindy, weren't you? And they were going to come back and give us a presentation on it because there were a lot of issues. They deleted entire sections of the charter, and that's when it came up that it wasn't created in accordance with the charter. So if it went to town meeting, would the AG even accept it where it wasn't even created in accordance with the charter? So that's where we're at on that now. Not that it's not going to be readdressed, but if that occurs, then the charter committee would actually be formed at town meeting. Is that right?
Don't recall without pulling it out.
Yeah, we'd have to pull it out again, but the entire sections were deleted out of the charter,
So
so...
there's going to be proposed changes to the charter then? There will be proposed changes to the charter?
Yeah.
The charter committee made recommendations for a number of changes, and
It's kind of ironic
council
because
reviewed
there
it
was an
and approved it
original
and all that
charter
kind of
review committee, and it was made in accordance with the charter.
Right.
And those recommendations were submitted to the selectmen, and the selectmen didn't do anything with it, and then a year later they created another charter committee, and that one wasn't in conformance with the charter, so that's where it sits. So we have two sets of recommendations, one set from a charter that was created, a committee that was created in accordance with the charter, and one that wasn't.
And he's trying to change the one that was created.
so we're still functioning under the original charter. Even though a lot of it
the
doesn't
question
even
is,
apply
yes, it's the original charter.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And I don't know if I heard he's trying to change. No one's trying
No,
to
I
change
said,
it.
no, that's
Okay.
not what I said.
Yeah, no, I just want to be clear. This is just trying to read everything
I said, I didn't
together.
mean you personally, I said you're meaning whoever
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah, this discussion is just trying to say we have a charter, we have policies, we have personnel policies, we have legal opinions, we have... This issue is discussed all over the place.
Right, so
Put it
it's-
all on the table and try to make
Right,
something of sense out of it all.
but it's pretty outdated.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you got an 02 letter of council, that's pretty dated, but it's still relevant because it's opining on the existing document. That underlying document hasn't changed.
And it's consistent with what Coleman and Page has given us as well. It's just when I went through my files, I knew that one, was in my charter stuff, so. Lori, did you have a question?
I was just going to speak, just my experience with the assessors board. So we're an elected board, and in my tenure, we've been through 4 associate assessors, and they were all selected by the board. I mean, they were hired by the board. The board conducted the interviews, the posting the interviews, and nobody else was really involved in any of them.
And
I'm sure that it was submitted, to... Well,
It was submitted
I
to
shouldn't say I'm sure that it was submitted to the selectmen. All I know is that what we did was we followed protocol for, the interview process, did the interview, made our selection, and it was the responsibility of the board, the elected board.
Right now, the policies and procedures that have been adopted by, including the Board of Assessors, all of the boards in town signed off on that cover page. The policy would be that the town administrator, in conjunction with the department or board, would do the recruitment, and it would go to the select board for their something. It's really not clearly worded what the something is, whether it really is
Was
just
that
kind
a
of
new
a...
sign-off?
I'm sorry?
Is that something new?
No.
That's done in this last year? How long ago was that done?
Oh, goodness. I could
10
pull
years
it.
ago.
I could pull it from my desk, but I don't know when it was updated last. That's just the existing, most current
I think that the
document.
groundwork was all done by the elected board and, as far as any hiring, and then it may have been given to the town administrator, reported to the selectmen after that, but it wasn't anything that they got involved in, like in the day-to-day working of, or the interview process, or
Right.
anything like that.
Right.
And I think that's consistent with what we're saying, and I can tell you what happened previously. The Vicky, or your administrative assessor and the board picked who they wanted to hire. It was sent to the town administrator to be signed off on the change of status form. That's how they got entered into payroll. And that's why I brought this up, because staff level doesn't need to be appointed and take the oath. So I wanted to make sure that there was, clear policy in that going forward. Are we just going to ratify your decision of the associate assessor, or is that going to be between the board, your department head, and Mr. Kreidler? And so that's because, like you said, it's going back and forth now. We've been hiring temporary cemetery workers. I mean, that's not really something that the cemetery and park should have to hold off till we meet again to hire temporary workers.
Right.
So,
Or the council on aging position. It was the most recent one.
Yeah. So, that's, it gets really confusing. I like it that the selectmen appoint, and they get, in accordance with the charter, and they get sworn in, and the department head and Jim do the hiring, and he signs off on the change of status form. Jim didn't think that was consistent with what a lot of other communities do, so he's going to put something in policy.
Yeah, it's not consistent, or it's not clear, given all of the documents. So trying to make them all work together and create a policy, which you're empowered to do by the charter. So just make that policy clear. That's all I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's all I want, is I just want consistency, so everybody knows. You can have a department head and say, this is the pathway, so no one's confused.
So, but in effect, you're putting a 15-day delay.
That's just my
in
idea.
hiring.
Yeah, it's just a 90.
Yeah, they haven't accepted that. That was just a protection I think is worth having in there.
Take your board, Lance, the planning board. You're going to be looking at a planning board assistant.
Yeah.
Well, you should be working with your land use coordinator and the department head.
Yep, and we do.
And, I mean, in the town administrator, you pick who you want. He signs off on the change of status. If he wants to bring it up under his update, say, hey, we hired Joe Schmo as,
Yeah.
That's for staff, rank and file, that's the way it should be.
Yeah, I just was concerned that if we find like the perfect person, what sort of buffer do we have to pull in before we have to extend an offer for any sort of grace period that's determined?
You shouldn't have to go through that. Please, Mr. Clark, go ahead.
Sorry.
Nope, that's okay.
Just to maybe get us back on track a little bit here.
Yeah, we do have a hearing coming.
And with all due respect, first of all, I wrote down some notes because I sort of lost my track of thought here. But first of all, I found it interesting that you and Mr. Kryler are bringing forward for me and Cindy and yourself things that are tough solutions, not just the easy ones. But I think that this here is going to be working out but in the long run, it'll be a policy that works. And as you know, I'm a huge fan of policies. Huge fan. But I think this is one that's going to have to do some reflection and some work. But I thank Mr. Crowell for bringing it forward, and I'm looking forward to working on that. The second thing is I see that Ms. Rill gave an opinion 14 years ago, and this is sort of an area that I have a passion for. And there's opinions, and then there's case law. And something that's 14 years old, I just want to make sure that nothing has interchanged in 14 years. And I know you're pretty adamant about researching that, but if you could do that, just so, all right, you understand what I'm saying on that? Case law means case law isn't until a big court comes out and says you're wrong, but opinions are subject to constant changes. So I would like that and then the last thing is we all need to remember that some of these appointing stuffs are all going to be subject to, as our current new bargaining unit supervisors, there's going to be changes on who's in charge of who.
Yep.
So there's a lot going on here, but what I like is that we're having a conversation that needs something to be done, but it's not going to happen in 1 or 2 meetings. We need to get it done right once, but not put it off forever. Is that a good statement, Mr. Kryler?
No, that's
No, I think we're all
So
agreed
can
to
I make
that.
a motion and move on to the next thing here? So we get
Yeah, no, he can just move on. There was no action
I was trying to be
necessarily.
nice, but he's got a lot of...
It was just looking for a discussion. So
Thank
that was,
you very
I think,
much.
a good discussion at this point. Section D, IT coordinator position. You will recall that as a lead-up to budget for the annual town meeting, that we had budgeted an amount of money in both salary and service sections of the IT budget. We did this to preserve our options moving forward as we tried to bring in full-time, on-staff employee to handle IT. As a lead-up to the process, I've had discussions with our public safety leaders, and we've determined that given the specialized nature of their software, hardware, and systems, that their needs would be best served having an on-call contract with a vendor who has direct experience with public safety IT requirements. Accordingly, as is the case now with our IT contract group, the IT position would be responsible for town-wide non-public safety IT function. We advertised for the position and received 7 applications and resumes. Each of them was rated on an evaluation sheet against the required and preferred skill sets. Of those candidates, 3 were forwarded in the process. 1 met all of the required and preferred skills. 1 met the required and all but 1 of the preferred skills, while a 3rd did not meet the required bachelor's degree. The advertisement allowed for me to consider a combination of education and experience, and given his experience, I judged him deserving of further consideration. And this was after a conversation that Cindy and I had about process, so I thank her for that. The next part of the process was interviewing the 3 candidates. After interviewing the candidates, 1 candidate was clearly far better suited to take on the challenge that is our IT system than were the other 2. I checked references, and also have firsthand experience with this candidate, and he is the chosen candidate. Steve Cloutier is that candidate, and here's where things get a little bit cloudy. Who appoints this position? Board action requested. Again, let's discuss the process. So if it were my position to appoint, and a reading of the charter would say that it would be, because it's not one of your listed positions, I would be offering this as my appointment, and it would be done, and there'd be no action required. If it requires some action by you, then I'd be asking for you to take that action. Without a clear policy that ties all these things together, this is the type of a situation we bump into.
Well, this is an easy one. It's a newly created employee position. It's always been contracted. So if the selectmen vote to ratify your choice of Stephen Cloutier, subject to negotiations or whatever needs to occur, and obviously a 6-month probationary period and everything would apply as an outline.
Personnel policies, yep.
So I'd entertain a motion.
Just to ratify?
Yep.
Okay. Make a motion that we ratify the appointment or hiring of Mr. Cloutier for the IT coordinator position.
Second.
Hiring.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, Mr. Cloutier. Welcome aboard. So that's exciting.
You see, Karen Hill here, and I've been directed by the selectman and the town administrator, now that I am actually working here, I've been working for all this time, to personally redact. I will be redacting emails that don't belong, and I will be giving you your stuff.
Thank you.
We will have it very soon, within probably 7 days. I'm going on vacation in there, otherwise they say it's going to be...
Really?
My first official act is going to be that.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, to allow a little further clarity on that, I spoke with Steve today and I said these are the types of things that I would like pulled, and I gave certain keywords, phrases, or numbers, and he's going to segregate all of those. I'd already got the majority of that done. He's going to finish that. Those I will then review to make certain that they would be appropriate to put forward to Ms. Hill, or if they would be able to be retained or should be retained for any of the exemptions under the public records law. So Steve is going to be doing those specific tasks that have been asked of him, and the final review will be done by me.
Thank you.
Progress, slow but sure. Okay, so we have a hearing in a few, so...
Yep. We can skip E. Right now, there's an issue that I'll be speaking to each of you about regarding E.
Okay.
So
And we can meet next Tuesday if needed for approval.
That then puts us to financial updates, Community Compact, McCormick Institute. They're going to be coming out on the 16th of August for a kickoff meeting, and I'll get a formal invitation out from them to all of the finance folks in the building as well as members of the Select Board. The fiscal 16 audit, our auditors have been in town and will be back in Town Hall continuing our annual independent audit beginning next week. So you may have been seeing them around over the last couple of weeks. They took 2 weeks off to go to another community and they're back in next week. Project updates. Timber harvest. I've had the first meeting with our forester and with land use coordinator Karen Chapman as we prepare to put several town-owned properties out to bid for sustainable forestry work. I'll keep you updated as we proceed. Fire station easement. Enclosed, you'll find a copy of an assignment of easement from Gary Shepherd to the town related to the Central Fire Station project. This assignment would need to be executed, and then Mr. Shepherd would execute, and we can get the thing filed. For those that aren't familiar with what this is about, there was a parcel of land on the rear of the fire station project that was privately held, and as a part of the private entity that did the development and construction of the station before it was gifted to the town, they entered into an easement agreement with that private property owner. This would now be to close the loop, transferring or assigning that easement to the town proper. And that couldn't have taken place prior to the project being finalized because we were not to be involved with the project. So on that one, if I could get a vote of the board to execute the assignment of easement, and if that could be done out of session so we can get Mr. Shepherd's signature notarized as well.
Make a motion that we authorize the town administrator to sign off on the easement opposite.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we need to clarify in the vote to accept it, not just to have you, authorize you to sign? Or do you think that's good?
The assignment of easement, which is what you said, is the acceptance.
Okay,
So
all right.
I think we're good.
We're
yeah.
good then.
Next is OpenGov. I've been researching software platforms that will drastically increase our fiscal and policy transparency. OpenGov is one such platform. I've enclosed a copy of a slide deck from them for your review and consideration for discussion. Chairwoman Smart and I had a conference call and desktop presentation with them last week, and I anticipate speaking with them again this week. So I would appreciate any feedback you can offer prior to my re-engaging with them. I don't know if you've had a chance to look through the slide deck that was enclosed in my report. If you haven't yet, I'd encourage you to take a couple minutes over the next couple days, take a look through and let me know what it is that you see, what your wishes are, and we can move forward from there. But basically what this would be is, on a very basic level, it would be the online checkbook. More than that, it's an interactive tool that allows internal manipulation of the data to create reports, to do projections. We would work with the folks from the McCormick Institute under the Community Compact Grant to make certain that any proposals they're making dovetail and are programmed into the software, so we're making certain that what we have for policy is able to be then executed by the program. But more importantly, it would allow public access to the town's website for anybody to log on to run reports, to analyze data, to say, I'd like to see what we've spent on administration over the last 15 years. And they can run reports. And it can be key to present that data either numerically or graphically. So if people think and see better using the chart, then it shows as a chart. If they like to see the actual hard data and look at the numbers, then you can run it that way. This is information that is contained within that slide deck. There are some examples given there. And this was also, I believe the entirety of the report was uploaded. I'm not certain, actually. If not, I do have copies of the slide deck available for anybody that has an interest in looking at it. And if you just go to opengov.com, you'd be able to see other examples of what this software can do. So if I could hear from you over the next couple of days at your convenience, that would be great. And policies. I'm enclosing draft copies of the first and second policy pieces for your review and consideration. You'll find board policies and procedures and a board and committee handbook. This is something that we've talked about as a priority right out of the gate to get these things going. So I'd encourage you to take, again, if you've not had a chance to go through it to date, I emailed it to you, so you have it electronically as well. If you prefer it in a Word file as opposed to the PDF file, I can get that to you as well, so you can track changes. Any comments that you have, anything you think that I've missed that should be tweaked, I'd love to hear, and ideally be able over the next month or so to get these policies updated, voted, and make them active. And under miscellaneous updates, while not included in my written report, but that came to me on Friday after the report was done, the Recreation Commission had asked that for this meeting tonight that a call for help go out for finishing the project that is the annex. We talked a little bit earlier at the first meeting about the fact that we lost the Department of Corrections crew that we had, the community service crew. So we're going to try to re-engage in that process, see if we can't get some folks back in. But in the meantime, if anybody has a skill, has a trade, has some time, we've got painting, we've got some doors that need to be hung and squared. Just stop in, say hello, give a call, and we'd love to bring you on board and get the project back on track and get it going so we can get the building in full use. And that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. 5.2, Board of Selectmen's announcement, updates, and reports.
All right, I just have a quick one here, because I promised I would do this. I was with Mr. Crowley today in his office, and Ms. Kim Watson came in, whose husband is a captain on state police. A little bit about him: he started his career many, many years ago, and here is Townsend under Bill May, and he has an unbelievable, distinguished career. But the wives of the Massachusetts police will be placing blue ribbons on trees and poles around the entire state of Massachusetts to support our law enforcement. And it's the Massachusetts State Police Wives Association, and their logo is behind every badge. There is a family. I'm going to, with the board's permission, ask Mr. Crowley to put this on our website so that if anybody has interest in supporting law enforcement, that they'll find a way to obtain blue ribbons. So I commend Ms. Watson and her husband for service, but all the people in law enforcement. Just a quick thing, as many of you know, I have a passion about, I'm on the board for Concerns of Police Survivors, which takes care of the families of children whose parents don't make it. And I used to teach the course with 5 officers who were shot in the line of duty. I have now retired from teaching. So this is close to our heart, and all these people, they go home every night, they hope to go home every night to their families. So this is about just showing the families we appreciate their dedication. So thank you. I will give this to Mr. Crowley. We can put it on our website. And thank you for those who service.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you very much.
And Madam Chair, the subsequent to Gordy and I meeting with Ms. Watson, she did email and say that they're targeting this coming Monday, August 1st, starting at the Common at 6 o'clock to begin hanging ribbons. So if anybody has time, interest to join them, they could use as much help as anybody's willing to offer.
Well, I just had a few updates, but nothing urgent, so I'll address them at our next meeting. I know we're a few minutes behind here, so until next time. So with that, I'll move on to 5.3, approval of meeting minutes.
Oh.
And I know Jody had sent us 4 different, so I'll entertain a motion. Did you have any questions or concerns on the minutes that we have?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
Make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes as follows. Regular meetings, January 12th of this year, February 2nd of this year, February 9th of this year, as well as the executive session on February 9th, 2016.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you, Jody. 5.4, review and sign bills payable and payroll warrant. No payroll this week, but motion.
Make a motion that we sign the bills payable warrants. Out of session.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. So we'll move on to 6.1, an executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A1, to discuss complaints brought against public officers, employees, staff members, or individuals. An executive session, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respects to collective bargaining for all union contracts subject to negotiation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the body and the chair so declares. We were notified in writing, I believe, that the first executive session, the person would like to have it in open, so we won't, and I just want to verify, is Jennifer here? You want to have this in open? So we will not be entering into executive session for that, so we will hold off on the second one until we get through the hearing.
Okay. So no motion needs to be made?
No motion needs to be made. So with that, we'll move on.
So I'll continue the broadcast.
You can continue. Yes, that's fine. And we announced that some members of the audience were going to as well. So with that, Jim?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is going to be a document that will be familiar because it's the same document that I read at the last time we had a hearing regarding a complaint that was held in open session. The public complaint hearing process. This is a formal complaint hearing before the Townsend Board of Selectmen. While we judge that it won't be the case here this evening, it must be noted that the chair of the Select Board reserves the right and has the responsibility to maintain order, and in that regard will not hesitate to uphold the requirements of the Massachusetts Open Meeting Law and remove any disruptive attendees. The discussion during this hearing will be appropriately structured and will follow the direction of the hearings officer. In an effort at maintaining fairness and the appropriate level of discipline and decorum, the discussion will be limited to only the specific information contained within the complaint. There will be no discussion allowed that is not put forth by a first-hand witness or direct party to the matter. Information, testimony, and/or comments that are unrelated to the specifics of the complaint are expressly not allowed. Anyone who interjects information without being recognized by the hearings officer, or who, once recognized by the hearings officer, speaks to information that is not directly relevant to the specific complaint at hand, will be asked to stop speaking and to return to their seat. If the inappropriate discussion continues, the person may be removed by the chair. Anyone that will offer testimony will be sworn under oath by the chair of the board. The Board of Selectmen members will weigh the testimony and evidence presented, deliberate, and then render a decision. A deliberation decision may occur this evening or may be taken up at a later meeting of the board at their discretion. The hearing will be conducted using a structured format as follows. As the town's chief administrative officer, I will serve as the hearings officer. As hearings officer, I may ask clarifying questions of the witnesses. By way of process, I will open the hearing, introduce the parties, ask if the defendant wishes to have an open or closed session. If a closed session, ask if the defendant has received his or her required 48-hour notice. If no, ask if they waived their notice. Ask the defendant if they're represented. If no, note it for the record. If yes, who it is, and note it for the record. Outline the nature of the complaint and read and enter the complaint as Joint Exhibit 1. The chair will then swear the complainant. Allow the complainant to present his or her complaint, evidence if any, and suggested remedy. Allow board members, and only board members, to ask any clarifying questions that they may have of the complainant. The chair will then swear in the defendant. Allow the defendant to respond to the complaint and give an explanation for his or her conduct. Allow board members, and only board members, to ask any clarifying questions they may have of the defendant. Ask if there are any additional first-hand witnesses or directly involved parties to the specific issue who wish to give testimony. If so, the chair will swear them in. Allow the first-hand witness or direct party the opportunity to offer testimony. Allow the board members any clarifying questions they may have of the first-hand witness or directly involved party. Adjourn the meeting to allow for careful consideration of the facts and any explanations put forward by witnesses. Inform the defendant when the board will reconvene with a decision, if not, the night of the hearing. Given that, Madam Chairman, the first complaint taken up this evening is a complaint against Conservation Commissioner Jennifer Pettit. Ms. Pettit, if you can come forward and take a chair.
Hi, Jen. Hi, Carolyn. Acting as Jennifer's representative.
Yes, I've asked Carolyn
To sit with her. I know.
Wires everywhere.
So Jennifer, if you wouldn't mind, you might as well stand. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Call the hearing open and introducing the parties. In the first complaint, we have the complainant as Karen Hill, the defendant as Jennifer Pettit. Per the document just read into the record, Ms. Pettit, you wish to have an open session, as you've indicated in writing?
That's correct.
Thank you. And are you represented this evening?
Yes, I am.
And by whom?
Carolyn Sellers.
Okay, thank you. And you've been sworn. At this point, I apologize that I'd ask you to step back, and we'll have the complainant come up, and we'll work through the next step. So if Ms. Hill can come forward, please.
Probably address the other one first.
Careful, Jennifer, the wires.
I go here.
Hi, Karen. Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, under pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Thank you.
Right. Pursuant to the document read into the record, reading of the complaint. I received an email from Ms. Hill. Jim, I've attached a copy of the written record of a phoned-in complaint from Ms. Pettit to DEP. Please add it to my formal complaint. I will also have pictures that she sent to DEP. Unfortunately, the file was too large for my email. I will be receiving a disc soon. Thank you, Karen Hill. The report from DEP is an email to Joseph Bellino from Denise Child, sent Monday, July 11th at 9:16 a.m., subject Townsend 308-0604 SOC inspection. Marianne issued this SOC superseding order of condition, and they have begun work. Can you go out today and inspect? The town is concerned with a number of things related to public safety and their bylaw. They haven't issued the local order yet, but relevant to our SOC, superseding order of conditions, they are concerned that the permittee, Karen Hill, has begun work without erosion controls being in place and without the wetland being adequately marked. I've had several calls from the commission. I called Friday, and the owner told me she had not yet started work in the jurisdictional areas and that she would give me a call before she did. It is not explicitly required in the SOC, but I requested the notice. Today I got a call from Commission member Jennifer Pettit saying they have started work and have parked the tree equipment vehicles in the intermittent stream at the property. Property owner, permittee Karen Hill, and Commission member Jennifer Pettit. And Townsend is temporarily without an agent, but the office coordination is being done by Land Use Administrator Karen Chapman. I'll bring you the paper file, and the electronic one is here at this link. Please copy me on all email regarding the case. So that's what I have received as documentation for the complaint. So with that, pursuant to the document read for process, allow the complainant to present his or her evidence and any suggested remedy. So what do you have for the board, Ms. Hill?
I have those photos, which there's some regular paper, so, and also the corresponding emails that went with them. Do you want to read them?
So the complaint comes in as Joint Exhibit 1 pursuant to the document read into the record. So these would come in as the complainant 1, 2, and the group of photographs as 3.
Thank you.
So we have 2 email documents also of July 11th, 2016 at 9:23 a.m. We have an email from Jennifer Pettit to Denise Child at DEP. It has attachments listed as photographs, and the subject is 3 Bowtell Road, Townsend, Mass. The text of the email says, photos taken from cab of my truck on Bowtell Road, 7/10/16 at about 4:30 p.m. Then we have one later that same morning, again from Jennifer Pettit to Denise Child, subject photos, and says in the text of the email, could you let me know later today if you received the photos of 3 Bowtell Road, Townsend? I had trouble getting them to go through my phone. Sometimes it takes a while. If it should come up, I would like to make it clear that these photos were taken from the cab of my vehicle on Bowtell Road. I did not step on the property in question or even get outside of my vehicle. Thanks, Jennifer. And then we have, as complaint exhibits, 2 photographs, which stand for themselves. They are what they are. So those are in the record. So what do you have to say to me?
Saturday, July 9th. That must be right, yeah. The Kings dropped off their equipment. I understood that some of the neighbors read them the riot act, that they didn't have the right to do that, which they did. They're just dropping it off in preparation of cutting the trees. So then Monday morning I get a phone call from DEP stating just what that complaint was, that I'd parked the equipment in the intermittent stream, which clearly it isn't if you look at the pictures. That I'd started working, which I clearly hadn't. The equipment was just parked there, and that the erosion controls weren't up. The erosion controls, the in the past, the commission has not required erosion controls for the cutting of trees, because when you cut the trees, they're going to fall in the erosion control, or they're going to be dragged through the erosion control, and it's just going to rip it out. And this was something that the commission had done fairly recently with an applicant up on Route 13. So it's fairly recent that they had said this. I was at the meeting when they had said this, so it wasn't an issue. When I talked to Joe Bellino at DEP, he agreed with me that it was pointless, as long as I wasn't doing any dirt work, which I wasn't, that I didn't need the erosion controls. So it appeared to me that Ms. Pettit expected DEP to come out to inspect something that there was nothing to inspect. Secondly, the proper procedure would have been for her to notify her chair first, or other people on her commission, before going to DEP, which clearly she didn't do.
Do you have anything further to offer under direct?
No, I don't think so.
Any clarifying questions from members of the board for Ms. Hill?
Just to clarify, your main complaint is that it was reported with false information. Is that what I understood? Or
Yeah,
what you believe to be false information?
Yes, and clearly it was meant to make DEP come all the way out here from Worcester, wasting their time on nothing to incite something from DEP. Now, I did receive an email from Denise Childs, I think it was Friday, stating that it was something, I guess, Ms. Pettit had asked for a clarification, that Ms. Pettit never said that it was in the intermittent stream, it was adjacent to it. And she did state that she kind of recalled that. It was adjacent to the stream, not in it. But the initial complaint that I got from DEP was that it was in the stream. And no one in their right mind would park equipment in a wetland, particularly professional loggers.
Any additional clarifying questions from members of the board?
No.
All set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Ms. Pettit and her representative. Okay, Ms. Pettit has been sworn already. Actually, if her representative is going to speak at all, it is an open session.
I don't think I can I?
Well,
I will speak through her.
It would be the discretion of the chair, so you would intend to speak through her then?
That was my expectation.
Okay.
Yeah, she can give advice to her.
Excellent. Okay, the next step.
Excuse me, I just want to make sure that...
Thank you.
The next step listed under the process document that's been read into the record would be to allow the defendant to respond to the complaint and give an explanation of his or her conduct. So, Ms. Pettit, the floor is yours.
Point of order, Madam Chairman, could I please address the hearing officer? With your guidance, I'm looking here, would it be appropriate to let Mrs. Pettit's, I'm not sure what the title is of the sellers here, that any conversation she may have confidentially may be accidentally picked up for recording, so.
Oh, I'm aware of that, thank you. We don't,
just trying to-
I don't think we'll have any, we have a statement to make and that's it. So, yeah, but thank you. Thank you for that notice.
Okay. I'm sorry to interfere.
We all set?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
For you.
Okay. I guess I need to start out with that I really have no idea why you are wasting your time and my time with this meeting tonight. Here's what I do know. On Thursday, July 14th, I received a notice from the Selectmen dated July 12th informing me of an executive session to be held at 7 p.m. on July 19th to hear complaints against me. When I asked Jim Kreidler for a copy of the complaint, all he provided me was a letter from Sergeant Brigante, of the Mass Environmental Police, to Townsend Chief to our Townsend Chief Eaton. This letter appears to have been solicited by Chief Eaton and contains Sergeant Brigante's recollection of a phone call I had with Sergeant Brigante 5 days earlier. There is no specific complaint against me specified in this letter. On Monday, July 18th, I received a message from Jim Kreidler indicating that the July 19th meeting would not happen. On July 23rd, I received a notice dated July 19th to inform me of an executive session to be held on July 26th at 7:30 to hear a complaint against me. In the packet I received on July 23rd was the Brigante letter and a letter from Karen Hill to the Selectmen that was dated July 13th. I am providing you statements refuting the information in Sergeant Brigante's letter and Karen Hill's complaint.
Ms. Pettit, there are actually two complaints, as you've just indicated. We're currently on the Karen Hill complaint. The Brigante issue would be taken up after this, but this is specific to Ms. Hill.
You just said you had one complaint, didn't it? Did you get a notice? Did you get a notice asking, you said you had one complaint? Can I just get a clarifying question to you?
Sure, I'll let you.
Her letter from the Selectmen setting up this meeting said complaint. Didn't say complaints. It said a complaint. So you were doing these complaints separately, or are you doing these complaints together? That would be the question.
It was intended to be complaints separate, two separate issues. They don't refer to each other.
That was not referenced in the letter, just to make that clear. It was not clear what happened. So you should know that.
Because I did ask.
Just to clarify, you received copies of both, correct?
Yeah, but it was...
When did you receive copies of both the complaints that we're discussing this evening?
We can do them separately, and we thought it looked like, we had a statement done as together thing, but we can do it separately if that's the way you want to do it.
That's fine.
So we'll just skip the Brigante one for now and just do that one.
This is the complaint concerning Karen Hill. I feel that this complaint is without merit. Karen Hill's claim that I represented myself, quote, as the commission, unquote, to the Department of Environmental Protection is false. You may verify that by contacting Denise Child, Acting Sections Chief, Mass DEP Wetlands Program at the Central Region. Her phone number is 508-767-2846. Who I spoke with on July 11th. I identified myself as a Conservation Commissioner in the town of Townsend. Although the Battelle Road Lot project was voted on by our Commission on May 11th, 2016, it lacked the formal approval required that includes the writing and filing of the Order of Conditions. In parentheses, I put, or the OOC, as we often refer to them, and proof of such record provided to the Commission prior to the start, to the start of work. The OOC was written by the Commission the night of July 13th and filed on July 18th, 5 days after her complaint was dated. There were no erosion controls in place and the wetlands were not clearly and completely marked. The superseding Order of Conditions, SOC, number 308-0604, General Condition number 17, states that prior to the start of work, and if the project involves work adjacent to a bordering vegetated wetland, the boundary of the wetland in the vicinity of the proposed work shall be marked by wooden stakes or flagging, unquote. This should have been done before any heavy equipment was brought on site or any work was done. As for Mrs. Hill's accusation that I told DEP that the equipment was, quote, parked in the intermittent stream, unquote, Denise Child has corrected the statement in her July 22nd, 2016 email to note that I stated, quote, near, unquote, as opposed to in, unquote, the intermittent stream. And we have a copy of that here.
So this would come in as EX1?
Madam Chairman?
As to the statement, quote, I'm sorry.
Doesn't she get to finish first?
Yeah,
It's a point of order, just so that we can make sure that the evidence is received correctly. I'm just trying to make sure it was squared away, that's all. I'm just letting the hearing officer know that we received the copy, each one of us is, okay? That's all. It's just very important, so the record shows that everything has happened. I'm actually trying to make sure that...
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Shall I continue?
Yes.
Okay. As to the statement, quote, the commission was unaware of her complaint, unquote, I incorrectly assumed that our land use coordinator had received communication of this violation and had notified the conservation chairman. She did not, due to a technical problem. As the town's OOC had not yet been written, DEP is the enforcer of their own superseding orders of conditions. Notifying them of the arrival of heavy equipment, quote, was the appropriate action to take, unquote, according to Denise Child. Working or placing heavy equipment without a recorded orders of conditions by the town of Townsend is an enforceable violation in Townsend. In 2012, I voted along with the majority of the commission to uphold the town's regulation that was put in place in 1989 that requires a 35-foot vegetated buffer adjacent to a bordering vegetated wetland, and did not approve the Boutel Road project. On May 11th, 2016, in my statement of vote to disapprove the Boutel Road project again, I stated that I agreed with what a resident said, that under the Mass Wetland Protection Act and under Mass Land Use Law, you may not create your own hardship by subdivision. The issue of creating your own hardship came up at a previous meeting.
Ms. Bennett, I'm not certain the relevance of you restating your previously publicly stated position in opposition to this project, given that the commission has already voted in the affirmative to approve it. This is meant to be very narrowly, as was read into the record and the process document, narrowly prescribed testimony to the complaint.
I think if you hear...
Ms. Bennett could respond.
It refers to her issue of prejudice against you. And so if he lets you continue reading, he'll understand.
Well,
just tell that him, Tim.
That I should want to continue reading, but it refers to, in her complaint, about my being prejudiced and voting against her project.
Where does it state that in the complaint?
I don't remember. Did you guys have a copy of the complaint, of the letter complaint?
We're dealing with the complaint that came in specific to?
Yeah.
Specific to?
Yeah. So it says, read that paragraph.
Ms. Pettit has been this is from the complaint, has been a staunch opponent to my project dating back to 2012. It is clear that this complaint was meant to inflame an unwarranted reaction from DEP. Her behavior towards me is...
Yeah, that's fine. So that's the same, it goes to that.
If I could ask, was that document in the notice that you received for this hearing?
You sent me this letter.
That specific document was?
Yep.
Yes.
Is there something, ask if there's something else we should have received.
Because the document that was read into the record as the complaint was just what was read into the record as the complaint, which is the specific issue of the call to DEP regarding the placement of the equipment.
Well, this is what I received.
All right, if that's the case, then this should be a moot point because DEP has already resolved that issue, saying it was...
Correct.
Say that to him, so that I can...
Well, we can...
Say
I
it.
just, yeah. that this, at this point, seems like, it should be having dealt with in a moot point because DEP has already said that they needed to stop work and has already dealt with their superseding orders.
When you're finished, if you're finished.
No, not done yet, so do it back here. Finish your statement. Can I ask a quick question? So she receives in the mail, or by registered mail, a letter with a complaint in it. Now you're saying that complaint is not valid, or anything in that complaint is not valid, because it's her understanding, and my understanding, is that was what the complaint was. So is it that whole letter, or is it only the one little issue with the DEP?
There are two issues that are being heard this evening regarding complaint. One is the placement of the equipment issue, and the other is the Briganti letter.
Okay, so...
Madam Chairman? Well, no, actually, it's not. All due respect. In the past, we've actually had attorneys sitting with people in the past here that said they're advisors, and so are we changing the format now or not? That's all I'm asking.
It's listed as the discretion of the chair in the
I just want to be
process
consistent how we
document
do
that's
it.
been read into the record. The issue of the letter that you're reading from was not intended to be taken up this evening. If it was sent in the letter inadvertently...
All right, that's enough.
I mean, I'm not certain that it... I'm not certain that... Well, let me say this. We have the writer of that letter here. It is a complaint. While it wasn't intended to be taken up this evening, if you would like it taken up this evening to be able to address it because you prepared to, I'm certain that Ms. Hill would be happy to come back up and offer her testimony on that letter as well. If you've been given notice of it and you're prepared to speak to it, I'm certain that she'd be happy to come up and speak to it.
So if I choose not to go to the letter that I received in the mail by certified mail this past Saturday, I picked it up, what is the complaint? What are the complaints?
Two complaints. One is the issue of your call to DEP and the characterization of your call in the written email from DEP, and Ms. Hill's complaint about the way they characterized your call. That is one. Number two is the Briganti letter. If, however, you were given the July 13th, am I remembering correctly? July 13th?
Yeah.
If you were given that in this packet as well, it wasn't intended to be taken up this evening, but if you're prepared to...
Ask him if he was going to bring it up some other time.
Well, that would be a question.
Jennifer,
would that be...
You have to say these things
right.
when I say them to you.
Well, the question is then, with this letter that it seems, inadvertently received, will this be brought up another time?
It would need to be, because it is an officially received complaint.
So let's do it tonight.
Then we might as well deal with it and be done.
So we'll stop.
Given that, if you could limit your response at this point to the specific complaint about the placement of the equipment and the email response from DEP, which you've already addressed.
Let's ask him to do the whole thing together. Let's start this all over with Mrs. Hill speaking first. Let's do this.
Yeah, I think that this is getting a little confusing, and maybe we should start from the beginning with Mrs. Hill speaking, and then I'll come back and repeat what I have to say.
I don't think that's unreasonable. I would defer to the chair.
That's fine with me,
and if we could take a brief recess then, right, if we could take if the board could vote a brief recess, and we'll get a copy of that document. It wasn't intended to be taken up this evening, Carol.
Can I ask you a question before we do that recess?
Why don't we wait until... we don't have...
Make a motion, we go into a recess.
Second.
Anything I say to you, tell them you have to.
I'd like to call the meeting back to order at 8:22. Thanks for your patience. Jim, do you want to?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Spent some time with Jody reconstructing the order of the events here. On July 19th, an executive session memorandum was sent to you, Jennifer.
Correct.
You are correct in stating that it says complaint. It should have said complaints, but that's the least of the concerns. The very next day, you sent me an email in which you ask if you can have the exhibits regarding the meeting scheduled for the 26th. The very next day I emailed you, copying the Select Board and Jody, the exhibits from the earlier hearing and a copy of the Townsend 308-0604 SOC inspection, which is the DEP issue. So what I sent to you was what I believed was earlier sent to you 2 days earlier in the hard copy. That was my error. My belief was that what you had received was the Briganti letter and Karen Hill's DEP email complaint, not the July 13th complaint. So there's, when you look at the timeline, the this was first, second, and third. I got it on this. Are you following that timeline okay?
Just her, so her, oh, read that. Her email says you added it to the formal complaint dated July 13th. Say, you know.
Yeah, and in here, it said to add it to her July 13th complaint, which would be
The letter that you got in the envelope.
the letter that I got in the envelope.
Correct. And that's the error that I'm taking responsibility for. The envelope should have contained the Briganti letter and the DEP photograph email issue. Having received the July 13th letter, being prepared to address the July 13th letter, with Ms. Hill here being able to speak to her July 13th letter, I acknowledge the error was mine. If you would like to proceed on the July 13th letter this evening, we can do that, or we can schedule to come back to it. But either way,
If you got this letter, where's the complaint? Just ask him that question. Where is the complaint in the DEP email?
Well, I guess
Ask him that question.
I guess I need to ask you then where the complaint is in the DEP email.
the complaint is
Why would you even
Ms.
have?
Hill's email on top of the DEP email where she is saying that
to my complaint.
this is, well, I won't paraphrase it.
Add it to my complaint. So how can you keep them separate?
Add it to my formal complaint. So it is a complaint from Karen Hill.
So we should do the July 13th complaint.
And of the July 13th
Correct.
complaint.
Which
that
you
we-
received in the envelope.
Right.
So I guess the question is, do you want to address that, or do you want to get correct notification and correct copies of it and come back?
I'd say let's be done with it.
I don't have enough time. Okay.
I mean, why
I
spend
would
time?
rather be done.
Thank you.
So will we need to start over again at the very beginning, or what we've done? How will that work?
If you've finished offering what you have to offer regarding the DEP emails,
We have put together a package of information with the whole complaint letter. So I think Ms. Hill has to come up here and make her complaint, and we can touch on the rest
We
of our
were working off of the July 13th letter of complaint.
fair enough.
And that's what we prepared for, so.
Ms. Hill is still here and still under oath, so she can come back and speak to the July 13th letter.
Thank you.
Ms. Hill.
Is this time to make some clarifications also, or
You're starting fresh. You've already spoken to the issue of your emails with DEP. You're now speaking to your complaint.
Will there be a point in time when I can make some statements regarding the DEP issue? Because Ms. Pettit said that the wetlands were not flagged.
We're starting right now at Ms. Pettit's request, basically from the beginning. So you can speak to your July 13th complaint and the DEP complaint. And once you have given your testimony, you are done.
Okay. So I'm getting this correct, that I can...
Both issues are on the table.
All right. So Ms. Pettit claimed that the wetlands were not marked. They were. There were 2 flags missing, the 2 flags closest to the road. Those are the only 2 flags that were missing. It's the previous line that the commission had approved prior. She stated that my orders of conditions were not recorded. They were issued on the 13th, but they weren't recorded until the 18th, which is 5 days later, which it is. But the town server was down on the 14th and the 15th, so I could not get my orders. Karen Chapman ended up handwriting them and giving them to me on Friday the 15th. Was that the 15th? Around noontime. The registry of deeds closes at 4. There was no way I could get there in time to have it recorded. I got it to a lawyer's office at 4:15. They put it in the electronic queue, and it was recorded on Monday. So it wasn't a matter that I waited 5 days to record it. I didn't have an opportunity because of the situation. So as far as Ms. Pettit's prejudice, I have a recording from the May 11th hearing.
If I could actually, we've not read the July 13th complaint letter into the record. So this would also be joint 1 to go along with the other documents that were entered. So it says, I'm filing a formal complaint against Jennifer Pettit. On July 11th, 2016, Ms. Pettit filed a complaint against me with Mass DEP. In the complaint, she represented herself as, quote, the commission, unquote. She then claimed that I had begun work on my property without approval from the town, that there were no erosion controls in place, and that the equipment was parked in the intermittent stream. The commission was unaware of her complaint. Furthermore, my plan was approved by the commission on May 11th, 2016. I have not started working. The equipment was dropped off. The commission also does not require erosion controls for tree cutting for the fear of damaging the controls. As for the equipment being parked in the intermittent stream, it was parked on the cart path and not in the stream. These allegations made to DEP were clearly meant to incite some form of action against me. All of this could have been cleared up with a simple phone call to me instead of involving the DEP and wasting their time. I did have a lengthy conversation with Joe Bellino at DEP. He stated that while I have superseding order of conditions with DEP, I still needed approval from the town under the bylaw. I informed him that the commission had approved my plan on May 11th under the bylaw in contradiction to the complaint Ms. Pettit had made. Ms. Pettit has been a staunch opponent to my project dating back to 2012. It is clear that this complaint was meant to inflame an unwarranted reaction from DEP. Her behavior towards me is inexcusable and unbecoming a town official. I'm extremely tired of this prejudice that she has exhibited toward me. During my hearing on May 11th, 2016, she stated that I had made my money back on this property and that I don't even live in town. Based on that, her intent was that the commission should not approve my application. Behavior of this nature warrants disciplinary action by the Selectmen. Sincerely, Karen Hill. This comes in as Joint Exhibit 1. I'm sorry. So your direct testimony to the board on that matter.
I have the tape recording of Jennifer Pettit stating that at the 11th meeting. It's roughly an hour and 39 minutes into the meeting.
Are you offering that as an exhibit?
I am. I'll have to provide you with a copy of it. I wasn't prepared for that today.
So that would come in as C2, and that would be the audio of, what's the date of the meeting?
May 11th, 2016.
I think I have that sample.
You probably do.
Okay.
You ready?
Anything additional?
Sorry. I just, in the past, we may have to huddle here to hear this, that's all I'm saying.
I think you'll find it's fairly loud.
Okay.
You ready?
husband knew, before even going to the planning board, the issues that would arise. It's in the minutes, which I want the minutes of the 2012 included in this. They decided to split it up. They have made their money back on this property. It could have been proposed there.
What does that have to do?
Because this is an investment property from people who do not even live in Townsend. They did not live on the property. It's not like when Jim was here and saying, oh, family properties, and they can't get to it. This is an investment flip property. Whatever you want to call it. That they sold, they could have, but it has to do with it. They could have brought access across that narrow spot, and they
I don't know all the different scenarios over the last 4 and a half years.
Well, I'm going to introduce.
Do you have anything additional to offer in direct regarding either the July 13th complaint letter, the additional email-specific complaint?
I don't think so.
At this point, okay. Are there any clarifying questions from members of the board?
I just have a clarifying for the whole process here. I'm trying to keep track of everything. Could we, if it's possible, Madam Chairman, through the hearing officer, how many, we had a prior open meeting that wasn't televised, how many complaints did we have there on that night, do you know?
In total,
Yes.
not related to any specific person, we had 4 complaints that were heard.
All right, so what I want to do is just for myself, give myself that this would be 5.
But not all of those complaints were related to this pet.
But they're not relative. I understand that.
And
But I'm just trying, I'm giving a number so I can keep track. That's all I'm asking, all right?
No.
Point of order, can you explain this to us? I'm not sure what this...
No, it's not. It's just my tracking. That's all. That's all. I
What are
just
you
need-
tracking?
It's just his thoughts. He
My
was asking
thoughts.
how many complaints were
That's all,
addressed
so
at
I
the
can
last time.
keep
Yeah, but
track
they
of it.
weren't all against it.
Everybody understands they weren't the same
And I know that.
complaints.
It's not the same complaints, and that's why I don't want to mix them up. So it's just for my personal tracking, not for the boards or anyone else. I'm just trying, so when I reflect on these, I'm crystal clear in my thoughts. That's nothing to, I'm talking to the chairman, that's all. Thank you for that. It wasn't meant to disrect. I'm just trying to take it serious so I can keep track of all the events. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay. Anything else, Karen?
I don't think so.
And Ms. Pettit and her
Thank you.
reminding you that you're still under oath.
We'll just start at the beginning of the Hill complaint. That could be response to Hill. Like this, yeah, this one, that one, yeah. We've already...
So now you're reading that, starting to make a little more sense.
Okay, yeah.
You can start, I think you were, what, 1.5 pages into it?
Well, I think she should start again. I just went through her introduction because you have that in the, you have that on the record, what she said about how she was, all the timetable, the calendar. So she'll start with, I think she should start at the beginning of the Karen Hill complaint, since you obviously was out of context for you and we did it before. So why don't you start there?
So we're not going to go back.
That's not still on the record, what she said previously, and we will be giving you a copy of this as well, so you'll have it.
Included in this
In
part
this-
of the record.
That'll come in as
Yeah.
the X1, which would be your first document submitted.
In reference to the Karen Hill complaint, I feel that it is without merit. Karen Hill's claim that I represented myself as, quote, the commission, unquote, to the Department of Environmental Protection is false. You may verify that by contacting Denise Child, Acting Sections Chief, Mass DEP Wetlands Program at the Central Region, phone number 508-767-2846, who I spoke with on July 11, 2016. I identified myself as a conservation commissioner in the town of Townsend. Do we...
We've given that to them already.
So we've given...
Yeah, you have that defense.
And there was, there was an email from her?
Yeah. They have that email already, all of them do.
Although Battelle The Boutel Road Lot project was voted on by our commission on May 11, 2016. It lacked the formal approval required that includes the writing and filing of the order of conditions, and proof of such record provided to the commission prior to the start of work. The order of conditions was written by the commission on the night of July 13th and filed on July 18th, 5 days after her complaint was stated.
I'll just give them this now, so tell them what you're giving them. Give it defense. This is explaining how the order...
Shall I read it?
Yeah, you should read it.
Page 19.9.2, the pre-construction site visit, under the Wetlands Protection Open Space.
So this will come in as DX3. So this is a document that you're submitting into evidence.
Is this my copy here?
Is it DX3 or DX2? What's DX?
The statement is going to be 1.
Okay.
The emails that were just submitted, 2. This will come in as 3.
Okay.
Thank you.
Could I just ask a clarifying question right now? With the introduction of this, the pre-construction site visit, I'm unclear, are you claiming that work began then?
Bringing...
Just read what it says.
Well, that's number 2.
Yes.
Did you read number 2?
Well, that's what I was reading. You're saying that work began there before the order of conditions was recorded. Is that what the claim that... I just want to make sure I understand.
She wasn't making a complaint. She wasn't...
No, not a complaint. It was that...
She was...
No,
a
claim.
She was... You knew that the Conservation Commission had not acted on your property yet. And there were vehicles parked near a wetland, so it raised flags, as it should have.
Okay. So but I just wanted to know you...
Right. I knew that it had not been acted on, that this was coming before us on the commission. And I also got a call from a resident, and that according to the SOC is that you're not supposed to even bring heavy equipment onto the site without a recorded order of conditions.
Do you have a copy of...
And I believe we...
a copy of that document to submit?
Do we have that with...
So if somebody
have
can't
DEP.
park, are you saying that somebody couldn't park vehicles on their lands?
You could see this. And here it is, number 22.
We were getting to this, but to answer your question, the limits of work depicted on the plan must be clearly marked in the field prior to commencement of construction. The erosion control barrier shall serve as a work limit line for this project. Now, this is directly... Right.
Tell them that.
And this is from the superseding order of conditions, and the fact that the DEP stopped the project I believe is evidence.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure as we're discussing it, your claim is that work was beginning and that's why. I just want to make sure I understand clearly.
Right.
Or were you saying that you had concerns because you saw work trucks there, so you called? There's a difference.
Well, there were concerns about work beginning, and if you look at that picture, may we have the...
Yeah, I saw the pictures. That's what
Well, I want to point something out on the picture, if I might. If you look at this picture, where it's coming down the driveway, what I tried to get, and it actually comes out fairly well, how much this type of work equipment chews up the ground.
Okay.
It causes a great deal of disturbance, and where it was parked down here, it was right near the bank of the intermittent stream. So if you want to pass that around, take a look at it. This is where the concern about even bringing heavy equipment onto a site.
Do you want a copy of this? What was directed now to? This is what it's read from. This is the superseding order of conditions from this date.
So, just to be clear then, this will come in as DX4, and the purpose that you submit this as well? Is there something in here that talks about the commencement of work?
She just read from it. I remember...
Well, we read number
22.
22.
Tell them that number 17 also.
But also on here, I marked, we're sort of hopping around with the question, I'm sorry.
It was my fault for asking for clarification.
No, that's fine. Number 1, under the general conditions. Number 17. Shall I read?
No, I don't read.
No. And number 22. I would like to submit. I think we've starred all of them.
Yeah, so you can go back to where you were. So here.
So where did I leave off here? There were no erosion controls in place, and the wetlands were not clearly and completely marked. The superseding order of conditions, number 308-0604, general condition number 17, states that, quote, prior to the start of work, and if the project involves work adjacent to a bordering vegetated wetland, the boundary of the wetland in the vicinity of the proposed work area shall be marked by wooden stakes or flagging, unquote. This should have been done before any heavy equipment was brought on site or any work was done. As for Mrs. Hill's accusation that I told DEP that the equipment was, quote, parked in the intermittent stream, unquote, Denise Child has corrected the statement in her July 22nd, 2016 email to note that I stated, quote, near, unquote, as opposed to, quote, in, unquote, the intermittent stream. Now, we have a copy of that?
We gave them copies of that already. Yeah.
Okay. As to the statement, quote, the commission was unaware of her complaint, unquote, I incorrectly assumed that our land use coordinator had received communication of this violation and had notified the conservation chairman. She did not, due to a technical problem. As the town's order of conditions had not yet been written, DEP is the enforcer of their own superseding order of conditions. Notifying them of the arrival of heavy equipment, quote, was the appropriate action to take, unquote, according to Denise Child. And I provided her information there if you'd like. Working or placing heavy equipment without a recorded orders of condition by the town of Townsend is an enforceable violation in Townsend. In 2012, I voted along with the majority of the commission to uphold the town's regulation that was put in place in 1989 that requires a 35-foot vegetated buffer adjacent to a bordering vegetated wetland, and I did not approve the Battelle Road project.
Commission did not approve.
Oh, actually, yeah, we had corrected that. The commission at that time did not approve that project. On May 11th, 2016, in my statement of vote to disapprove the Battelle Road project again, I stated that I agreed with what a resident said, that under the Mass Wetland Protection Act and under Mass Land Use Law, you may not create your own hardship by subdivision. The issue of creating your own hardship came up at a previous meeting in a response to a concern raised by another resident. He was very upset and concerned that we would be denying land held by families for generations to be able to build homes for their children. I explained that the Commission tries to be sensitive in those cases, but this was a property purchased as an investment, and that subdividing this property as she did was creating her own hardship, as it was counter to our 35-foot no-disturb bylaw and regulation. She should have been made aware of this in July 2012, as her husband discussed this with our agent and then chairman. and that is in our agent's report. I don't have a copy of that, but we can get it, or you can review it in our July 2012 agent's report from the meeting. I responded to a concerned resident's call on July 11, 2016. I took 2 photos of the violation from the window of my vehicle on the public road, in parentheses, as recommended we do by our conservation chairman, and submitted this information to the appropriate authority. It seems clear that the regulations were not followed since DEP did stop work on the property. Any resident could have done the same thing. And as you know, I have been a Townsend Conservation Commissioner, or maybe you don't know, for almost 20 years. I know probably better than almost anyone in town the difference between a conservation agent, a conservation commissioner, and the commission. I have never identified myself as an agent or as a commission. In my 20 years of service to the Townsend residents, I have never been subject to a complaint like this. I have no idea why the Selectmen would even entertain these baseless complaints against me. And we've submitted all the materials.
I'll give them one copy of that. I'm going to hold up to give you the other copy because we have the other hearing that we didn't know was going to be happening.
The other one we did. It was this one we didn't.
Okay, we didn't know. Yeah. So this is
That was the original statement?
That's part of her original statement, and this is part of her original statement.
So these we've already identified them as DX1.
Look at that.
Do you have anything further to offer in direct on Karen Hill?
I don't know that we do.
Clarifying questions. The document on process that was read into the record would say that if the hearings officer had any questions, clarifying nature, that he'd ask, and then the board. So I do have a couple that I wanted to just ask. In your direct testimony, as I understood it, there was the suggestion that there is a violation because the equipment was brought on site. Did I understand that?
All you did was take a picture and send it to DEP. That's all you did.
No.
Did
well, as you know, that
doesn't say that you just took a picture and sent it to DEP like any resident of town would do. Say exactly that.
Yeah, that in this case, all I did was drive up. I took 2 pictures. I sent them to the appropriate person at DEP, and that is what I did.
Has anybody in town?
Ms. Sellers,
I know,
but it's difficult for me to ask a question and have her hear me when you're whispering to her. So, if you need to talk with her, I'll stop.
Well, I think that I would like to say something if possible. I think that Ms. Pettit is being badgered by people. She is not used to having this. She's not used to this. She cannot afford an attorney. That's why I am sitting here and not an attorney. And I think the board should recognize that. I think the people of Townsend should recognize that. And I think that, so I want to make sure she may say things that I am more worldly wise, perhaps, as far as things go, and I want to make sure she's not saying something that may be twisted against her, because that appears to be the modus operandi of certain individuals in town, not at this board, but that are doing business in this town.
Let me just interject for a moment. I think there's some confusion there. So when you get a report, a complaint, both sides have a chance to. This is not a disciplinary hearing. This is not a, there could be no discipline out of it. This is to hear complaints for and against, and then we take under advisement to see if anything further goes on. We're not holding a disciplinary hearing. We're listening to complaints, and that's everyone's right. So I just want to make that clear. She's more than welcome to have an attorney representative. Those are the rules of the executive session. However, this is not a disciplinary hearing.
And Ms. Ellis, on that point, if your advice to Ms. Pettit is that she don't Did she not answer a question until you've had a chance to speak with her? I think that's wonderful and good and wise advice. My point was I had not yet been able to ask a question. In fact, I started to ask a question, you advised her on what to say, she then answered something that wasn't even my question. So it's going to make for a long roundabout night.
As long as you know that she'll talk to me before she answers you.
That's her right. Absolutely her right. Like, my question is, I think, simpler than that which you answered. Did I understand your direct testimony to be that work had commenced on site, and that is a violation of something? Did you believe work had commenced, and if so, is that a violation of something?
Bring the equipment on. You bring the equipment on, raised concerns, so you send it to DEP.
Right.
She told me to, because the child suggested.
Yeah, bringing the heavy equipment on, I believe, as I said, raised concerns. Number one, I got a call from a resident, raised a concern with me, and I passed it on to DEP. It was very simple. You've seen what I've given to DEP, and as the town's order of conditions had not been written, DEP is the enforcer. I think I've already said that.
I understand.
Of their superseding orders of conditions.
I do understand that. My question is, I think, far simpler. Do you think the placement of heavy equipment on that property is or was a commencement of work under either the town's not yet filed or the DEP SOC?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what you're trying to get at with this question and how it's germane to this
How is it
complaint.
germane to this specific complaint?
I'll be clear. You have testified, I believe, that there was a violation merely by the presence of that piece of equipment on the property. I'm trying to elicit from you what you believe was violated. When I look at the documents you've submitted, it talks about commencement of construction, proceeding under. My question is simple. Do you believe that the placement of that piece of equipment is commencement of construction or proceeding on the work?
I had a concern about the placement of the equipment and the damage it was causing and the potential erosion. And according to Denise Child, what I did was the appropriate action to take, quote unquote. She said she welcomes any calls, and she did say, after I read the complaint, that it is never a waste of DEP's time. Never. She said that's what we are here for. And she said to me that what I did was the appropriate action to take. And they have the superseding orders of conditions.
So Ms. Child's email doesn't state that. That's just from your conversation with her?
That's a conversation. Her number is there. I called her to clarify that. All her numbers, her emails, and information to access her, if you'd like, is there.
And the only other clarifying question I had is, you said that due to a technical problem, the communication that you believed had taken place between the land use coordinator and the chair had not, in fact, taken place. So what was the technical problem, if you know?
I think there was a phone problem, but beyond that, I'm not sure. It was a voicemail phone problem, I'm not sure. And I'm going to leave it at that. Yeah. Yeah, I was told that Karen Chapman, who's our land use administrator, was called, and she didn't get the message. Had she been called, I expect she would have notified our chairman. Had she gotten that message.
So you understand that she had been called, do you know by whom?
I am not going...
Not by you. That's what I'm getting at, not by you. By whoever the same citizen was that... Okay. Okay, thank you. Members of the board have any clarifying questions on the Karen Hill related matter?
No, I have a question on process. If somebody has evidence in the audience, do we open it up to hear that? There's the conservation chair is here, and he's raising his hand, and I'm not sure why.
If they are I'll go back to the actual document, just so everybody is clear. Ask if there are any additional first-hand witnesses or directly involved parties to the specific issue who wish to give testimony. So if there's somebody, once we have finished with Ms. Pettit's testimony, if there's somebody additionally that is a first-hand witness or directly involved party, they would be allowed to come up, be sworn, and offer testimony. Anything else? Clarifying questions for Ms. Pettit? Excellent. Thank you very much. We'll take up the second issue once this one is completed.
Make you go back and forth.
May I take a few seconds to change tape here?
Sure.
Thank you.
You all set, Harley?
Please stand by.
Thank you. Next, under the process document that's been entered into the record, are there any additional first-hand witnesses or directly involved parties to the specific issue who wish to give testimony? If you could identify your name and how it is that you're directly involved or first-hand.
I'm Laura Dowell. I'm in a butter to the Hotel Road property. And
You want to come up and be sworn?
Before she does, what is your direct involvement in this particular matter? The complaint that's before the Board of Selectmen regarding Ms. Hill's allegation that Ms. Pettit, on that day, her activities by calling DEP are demonstrative of her bias. You have something that you're directly involved with in that regard?
I do.
Okay. Let's go for it.
If you'll raise your right hand, Lauren, swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, and the pains and penalties of perjury. I do. Thank you. I just wanted to say that the wetland starts on my side of Hotel Road, crosses under, and continues on the other side. And I want to say that it was unmarked, and that Ms. Pettit's concerns were well-founded because cutting began on the 14th. And the paperwork wasn't filed till the 18th. And trees were being cut into the unmarked wetland. That's all.
That's the first that's been offered as testimony this evening on this matter, including by Ms. Pettit. So is there something that
I'm saying that the wetlands were not marked. I did take footage of this happening. I also talked to one of the kings, and I didn't bring it with me, it's on my cell phone, and I let him know I was taping, and one of the kings said that he was told that he could, a week before, that he could start work on the 14th. And if you want me to produce the tapes, I would be happy to.
I think that would be helpful. In terms of the cutting going on, your
Sure,
testimonies that
I'd
you
be
have.
happy to. They're on my cell phone. I'll need a day or two to extract them. I'll bring them in to you.
Certainly. So
Yeah.
that would be, just as a clarifying question, so that would be footage of work having commenced
on the
that would
14th.
otherwise have been regulated by either the SOC or the local order.
Yeah, so I'm saying that, from the road, the Boutel Road, way in, I'm not going to estimate how many feet, I'm not good with that, but there were no markings. The wetlands were not delineated, they weren't staked, and work began, as I said, on the 14th, and they told me that they were told a week before by Karen Hill that they could start on that day.
Anything additional?
Nope, that's it.
Any clarifying questions by members of the board?
No, okay.
Madam Chairman, I'm sorry,
sure.
I apologize. Thank you very much, Rita. Just for clarification, does the hearing officer have a manner or techniques for this evidence to be recovered that he would set up guidelines for?
I was actually going to ask
It's on
you-
my cell phone. Would you like me to bring the cell phone in to you?
That'd be fantastic. Then you can
Okay.
actually, I don't know what kind of cell phone you have, but you could either airdrop it if it's an iPhone or email it.
It's not an iPhone, no.
We can figure it out.
I can bring the cell phone right into your office tomorrow morning if you'd like.
That'd be fantastic. If it would meet your approval, what I would do, if not able to extract it through some software, just actually take a video of it
It's
as
fine.
it be entered into the record.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for that.
Any additional members in the audience that are first-hand witnesses or directly involved parties to the specific issue who wish to give testimony?
Commissioner.
Yeah, I just want to...
If you can come up and identify who you are and what you believe your direct involvement is.
Well, the involvement is the contact that I got from Joe Bellino, the phone conversation I had from him.
Regarding this particular matter?
That particular matter.
Come on, don't carry on any longer. Come on up and be sworn.
Yeah.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, and the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
If you can offer what testimony you have on this particular matter.
The point being, the phone call I had received from Joe Bellino of the piece of equipment that was supposedly parked in the wetlands. Joe asked me if I could get down to the site to verify if it was or was not actually parked or placed in the wetland area. He got the impression from the phone call, whomever called him, that the machine was actually in the wetlands. And he was very concerned about that. And he asked me if I could get out there right away, because it's 40 minutes for him to get from there to Worcester, and he really didn't have the time to verify something like that. And if I would go down there, view it, verify for him that it was not in the wetland, call him right back. So at that point in time, it took me 5 minutes to get to Bootel Road. The fella was actually right on the cart path, right in it, on the road, not in any wetland, not in any way, shape, or form. So I called Joe back immediately, verified that it was not in the wetland. He thanked me. He canceled his 40-minute trip out to Bootel Road to verify this. So the information he had got from whomever stated that that piece of equipment was in a wetland area, parked in it. So that's why he had concerns, and he asked me as the chair to go out there and verify what we were looking at. So...
Anything additional?
There was quite a few different phone calls back and forth, myself and Joe, and as I recall, Jennifer's name was brought up as the one that had extended the information of that piece of equipment being in the wetlands. I mean, I didn't record it, I didn't do anything of the such, but I mean, this was my conversation with Joe Bellino from the DEP. So.
Any clarifying questions of... you were able to be reached that morning by your cell phone?
Oh, absolutely. I had no problem with anyone reaching me with my cell phone. Jennifer, prior to that, I think Day had asked me if we could get together and have a card sent to one of our commissioners that we had left. So I had no problem with anyone communicating with me. None whatsoever. I mean, my lines are always open. My cell phone is on the 24/7. Never a problem.
Since you said last week you did.
Madam Chairman.
Good. Any clarifying questions by members of the board?
Madam Chairman? Thank you. Through you to the hearing officer, just for the record, could you please obtain from the person giving testimony his official title for the record?
Thank you. What is your title and...
Chairman, Conservation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Current chairman, right?
Yes, sir.
It's just for the record. Thank you for your courtesy.
That's fine.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, hearing officer.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Roy, and you're all set.
Thank you.
Are there any other additional first-hand witnesses or directly involved parties would like to speak? Ms. Chapman, what is
I'm
first
the
hand?
one that supposedly got a phone call. I just wanted to explain what happened.
Come up and be sworn if you would.
Will you raise your right hand, Karen?
One was Jim
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing
You
but the truth, under the pains of penalty of perjury? I do. It's like I know I did.
On Monday, the 11th, Jennifer called and said that someone had left me a message at my house, and did I call Jim Dorian. The message was left on my home phone, which I haven't been able to access the voicemail in over a year, so I never got the message. That was the technical difficulty.
Clarifying question, if I could. So, Ms. Pettit called your home phone to leave the message? Is that what
No.
A citizen.
A citizen called, okay. A citizen called your
Home phone.
number to tell you that they had a concern regarding this location. Any clarifying questions, members of the board?
Madam Chair, for you to the hearing officer, that's okay. Several times during testimony here, we've been listening very closely to this, and it comes down to we have to take a basis of credibility. And several times, Mr. Hearing Officer, Mr. Kryler, we've heard a resident, just a thing resident, and that by nature of itself has a problem with reliability. I'm not saying you have to tell us with residents, but that would help us with reliability in our thought process. That's all I'm asking.
Asking who the resident was, I think.
Yes, well, I have to put
I didn't get the message, so I don't know.
That's all. It's just that several times during tonight's procedures here, people refer to residents. And sometimes it would help me understand where the resident's coming from. And so all I'm putting out there is we know the resident, we may give more credibility or less. We have to sit here and take it seriously and consider all testimony. When I don't know who the resident is, I can't give any credibility to it. That's all I'm saying. So I'm giving I'm trying to maintain the integrity here by giving you the opportunity with the credibility. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
And just one last clarifying question. I'm sorry, Karen. Your title working for the town?
Land use coordinator.
And in that regard?
Zoning board administrator, assessors, property lister, fill-in conservation agent and administrator, fill-in planning board administrator.
Thank you.
Hard-working woman.
Thank you.
Are there any other...
Can I ask a question?
Are there any other additional first-hand witnesses or directly involved parties to the specific issue who wish to give testimony?
From the back row, please.
Yes, if you can state your name and what it is that makes you a first-hand witness or directly involved party.
Kelly, I was at the meeting on May 11th and just wanted to provide some information on the context in which Jennifer's statements were made and what it was in regards to.
But we have the whole CD that we're going to be listening to.
If you want to listen to the whole recording, that's fine, or...
I think that's fair. I mean, if you believe there was something that was not made clear by the excerpt that was played, do I understand you correctly? But you think there's better context than just having heard that piece?
Do you have the recording with you to verify it?
I don't have a recording, but if you want to listen to the recording, I would just say that you should go back and listen to what Jennifer referenced.
What she decided.
So just so I understand, you want to offer your perspective of what the context was that night in the hearing that you heard Jennifer make that comment?
Jennifer was answering to a comment that was made. So you hear a snippet of what she is saying, but it was in context in regards to answering to a comment. That was it.
It's been offered as a very discrete piece of evidence. If there's additional context that can be verified by the tape.
Please raise your right hand. Tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, under the pains of penalty of perjury. Yes, thank you.
What do you have to say?
The meeting on May 11th was very well attended by a number of town residents, many of whom were in this room. It was definitely one of the more contentious meetings in town, because this has been a hot property item going on with the residents in town. And there was definitely some people calling over each other and some tension about getting heard and speaking. At one point, Jim LeQuire came in. He's, I believe he's the acting Board of Health chair, but I think he came in regards to himself as a resident in town, and he was making comments about how he believed that the waiver should be approved because the commission should not stand in the way of town residents bettering themselves and subdividing the property for their families or getting in the way of their financial growth. And so his comments were that it should be approved because if a family wanted to subdivide their land so their children could build on it, who are we as a town to stand in the way of that, or who are we to get in the way of someone financially benefiting themselves? So Jennifer's comment, by the time she was heard, was answering to that point that this is a different situation than what Jim LeQuire was discussing. So while in a snippet it comes off that she is saying, well, it's an investor owner and she's already made her money and all of that, it was an answer to that point that was made, that this isn't a situation where it's a family member trying to subdivide for their children. This isn't a situation where it's a resident trying to financially help out their family, and that her comment about that the money had already been made was an answer saying that the financial implications are not, shouldn't be a consideration for the board because she had made her money back, number one, and that she had created her own hardship by choosing to subdivide this property. So there may have been tone, or there may have been, I think the general night in itself was a frustrating night. And there were a lot of people that were trying to be heard and not heard, and I think Mr. Dorian tried his best to maintain the meeting and make sure that everyone was heard, but her comments were not just in isolation out of nowhere that were meant to be said.
Any clarifying questions for Ms. Kelly?
No. The CD is going to be entered into the record tomorrow, so I'll be able to listen to it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any additional first-hand witnesses or directly involved parties to the specific issue who wish to give testimony? If you could state your name and what you believe your first-hand...
Stephen Sheldon. There was testimony given that work had begun on the 14th. I had just asked the Conservation Commissioner if it had been, and he agreed that it was. Work had started on the 14th, so that is the statement that was given that there's video of.
Okay, well, you've not been sworn nor able to give testimony yet, but I want to understand what you're saying. So you're saying that just this evening you have learned by communicating with the chairman of the commission that, consistent with earlier testimony, that work had begun, that was true?
That was true.
I'm just trying to... I'm trying to find a way to pigeonhole that into you being a first-hand witness or directly involved party.
Well, it just backs up what was, somebody said that you need video of it, and now I have.
Well, I think her testimony, and given the fact that she has video, will be what it will be, and that what may be being said in the back of the room is not making you necessarily a first-hand party to the incident.
Well, if it goes to the complaint that, you know, the DEP had to come out, this goes directly to work had begun on this property before it was signed off.
Which a first-hand participant has already offered testimony and has evidence to be able to offer.
Okay.
Thanks. Are there any other first-hand witnesses or directly involved parties to the specific issue who wish to give testimony?
I'd like to clarify something.
Unfortunately, the way the process was laid out, you've given the testimony.
It's in regards to Laura Dole's video, which I didn't have a chance to... My complaint was regarding what happened on July 11th, not what happened on July 14th. Two totally separate issues.
My belief is, if you were allowed to come back to the table, still being under oath and testify, so too would Ms. Pettit be able to come back with her representative who has been trying to speak for some time since she's been sitting back in that chair, be allowed to come, because fair is fair. So if you believe there is benefit in you coming back to the table and offering a clarifying statement, in fairness, Ms. Pettit and her representative would also be offered the same opportunity. So that's your call.
The
this point in time, I'm tired of all this, to be honest.
So are there any other first-hand witnesses or directly involved parties who wish to give testimony? Seeing none. Moving to the list, we now have adjourn the meeting and allow for the hearing, and allow careful consideration of the facts and any explanations put forward by the witnesses, and the board can take this under advisement or make a ruling this evening. So what is the board's pleasure on this first of the two complaints?
My position is I need to hear the CD and I need to see the video before I...
What?
Caroline, would you speak up, please?
I'm sorry.
I'm sitting next to you, I didn't hear what you said.
That's all right. It's my fault. There's going to be video evidence coming tomorrow, and there's a tape I need to listen to, so I'm not going to make a decision tonight until I've seen it, heard it.
Any other board members have thoughts on that?
Personally, I don't need any more than what's already correct.
I would defer to Karen's right to review any evidence. I think she would do it to me or Cindy if we had questions.
Well, if they're entering evidence in tomorrow, so...
Yep, that's fine, but if one of us, Madam Chair, if I can speak, please.
Yes.
If one of us during any procedure has concerns, I think it's only respectful that we give the other person a chance to do that. So I would do that for you or Cindy, and I know you two will do it. So at this point, I would defer so that you can reflect.
Okay. So that'll be taken under advisement by the board, and pursuant to the document of process read in, the parties will be notified when the board is going to be making its decision known. Given that, we have item number 2, which is a letter from Mass Environmental Police that is specific to the prior complaint that had been heard, and it would have been inappropriate to introduce it into that record because that hearing had been closed. This is a little tricky because there would need to be a complainant to put this document forward, and while the document is written by a member of the Mass Environmental Police and submitted and addressed to our police chief, and the words say what they say, there would need to be somebody putting this forward as a complaint. The board sits in a position, the select board sits in a position to hear the matter and ultimately decide. So it would be inappropriate for one of you, if you had concern enough about the context and the content of this letter, to be the complainant. Having said that, I judge that it is necessary that this document be made a part of a formal process. So I am going to step away from being hearings officer, unfortunately. And I'm going to have this come in to the record as a document that I'm submitting because it concerns me greatly. So given that, we will go back to the manner in which a hearing might have been held had there not been a hearings officer in my position, which means the board chair will be the one that will be asking for parties that have direct first-hand knowledge to offer their testimony. So I would offer the document that's been read in as process to you, Madam Chair, and the bullets that begin with that, and I will step away.
Point of order, the complaint, she was not available to hear that it was Jim Feiler making this complaint against her. That was not provided to her. All was provided to her was a letter with no complaint in it, just a letter from the environmental police to the police chief. So you should think carefully whether this even deserves a hearing or it should just be dismissed outright. And think about that carefully.
I have thought about it carefully.
And maybe we need town council opinion on this.
I have thought about it very carefully, and notwithstanding the look you're giving me, what I have concluded is that Ms. Pennant under the law is not entitled, whether you agree that this is right or wrong, is not entitled to be told who the complainant is. She's merely required to be told that a complaint has been lodged. So she has been given all the notice that she's afforded to under the statute.
I asked you at least twice
Yeah.
whether there was a complaint
Jennifer.
connected with it.
Jennifer.
And what was provided to you is this document, which is the complaint that I have regarding
No
the
complaint.
behavior. Excuse me.
There's no complaint there. There's no complaint about Jennifer Pettit in that document.
Madam Chairman, can I make
let's
a motion that all
proceed.
things be directed to the chairman, please?
And let's proceed and see if the board judges that this is worthy of consideration as a complaint or not.
Okay, let the board decide that.
Absolutely.
I think the board should decide before we get involved. They should read the letter, decide if it's worth a complaint.
The way that would work would be the complaint would be proffered. They would then judge whether or not they judge that it merits going forward. So if it's offered into evidence and they say, this is garbage, we don't think there's any complaint here, they can then stop it at that point.
That sounds good. Go ahead.
Okay, so we're going to open the hearing. Jim, just for clarification, you're going to be...
Yes.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Please state your name for the record.
Certainly. James Kreidler, and I serve in the capacity of town administrator here in the town of Townsend.
Okay, just to read this into the record, the complaint, and this is going to be, have you been marking, is this a brand new one?
This is a new one, so this would be
Exhibit 1.
correct.
Am I allowed to ask that either
No.
the mics be fixed or you all speak super loud?
I could try yelling.
Just so we can hear.
Madam Chairman, if people would stop talking to the audience, that may assist us in you hearing more. It's quite, and so we'll try to talk louder. And if people would be respectful of the process, this is a serious process, stop all the chatter in the audience, please. All due respect to everybody, we'll try harder to talk louder, and everyone will try to be quieter. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Excuse me, Madam Chairman, for interrupting.
Thank you. Dated June 27, 2016, to Chief Eaton, Townsend Police Department, from Sergeant Mark
Briganti.
Briganti, Mass Environmental Police. Read Jennifer Pettit. Chief Eaton, per your request, I am writing in regard to a conversation that occurred between me, Sergeant Brigetti of the Massachusetts Environmental Police, and a Townsend resident, Jennifer Pettit, on 6/22/2016 at approximately 1:45 p.m. while on duty on June 22, 2016. Ms. Pettit was connected to my state cell phone via her phone call made through the Massachusetts Environmental Police Communication Center on June 22, 2016 at 1:44 p.m. in her initial request to speak with Lieutenant Anthony Woloski, IMC MEP call -16-9652. The nature of the phone call was, as best as can be described, a conversation of contradictions. Ms. Pettit described to me a recent incident that occurred in her town, located on conservation property. That's quote. Involving her stopping two, quote, young children riding their, quote, off-road machines and photographing them, has brought her to the point of contacting Massachusetts Environmental Police to, quote, to see if there was anything you, MEP, could be able to do as far as writing citations for this activity, end quote. She stated to me before I responded to this initial request that she, quote, had been cleared by the Select Board of any wrongdoing involving her stopping and photographing the youths, and, quote, as was described by her as she, quote, was doing as her duty as a conservation agent. I had previously been updated by my Lieutenant Anthony Woloski, a few weeks prior to this call that there was an open incident regarding the possibility of an illegal stop made by a member of the Conservation Commission in Townsend. I was advised by my lieutenant the issue was being researched by the Townsend Police Chief, the Select Board, and the Conservation Commission. Ms. Pettit was advised regarding the issues as described by her and my knowledge of the local matter. There was no legal grounds to second-handedly enforce off-highway vehicle laws under Chapter 90B of the Massachusetts General Laws. She was advised this issue must occur in a sworn officer's presence and that he has the statutory right of enforcing Chapter 90B, and hearsay is not an option to issue citations. Ms. Pettit became quick to respond that I am, quote, a sworn person of the Conservation Commission, and, quote, I have been cleared of any wrongdoing. With uncertainty of all mentioned above, my response to Ms. Pettit was professional in nature, continually advising her to report on any, quote, ongoing off-highway vehicle OHV activity to her local police department at the time of observing such, or to notify the Massachusetts Environmental Police, or both. Her reply was that, quote, she had been cleared of any wrongdoing. She could take pictures of anyone and is only dealing with a civil matter involving the children, end quote. I advised her of the same protocol when encountering the OHV vehicles on prohibited lands, including town and or state properties. She stated, quote, I've spoken to Tony, Lieutenant Walensky, about this, end quote. In concluding the phone conversation, I advised her once again to, quote, to notify law enforcement of any OHV violations. Her demeanor was not satisfied with my instructions, however, did recognize the shortfall of the number of the MEP officers assigned across the Commonwealth, and stated in conclusion, you need more officers, and we'll just have to keep trying to stop them. I finally advised this is not what to do. To stop them is not in your jurisdiction to do so, and you may be put in harm's way if you do so. I advise one more time to notify your local police department or MEP to address OHV issues that are ongoing. She did not respond. She thanked me for my time, and our conversation concluded. Respectfully submitted, Sergeant Mark Berninsky, C-41 Mass Environmental Police. Exhibit 1. Mr. Kreidler, would you like to offer testimony?
Yes, please. The letter, as you see, is addressed to Chief Eaton. Chief Eaton's unavailable to be here. He's out of state. So I'm sitting as the complainant. This letter has been presented to me by Chief Eaton, and given that it has statements attributed to Ms. Pettit in quotes and signed by a sworn member of the Massachusetts Environmental Police, I thought it important to read it carefully, look at the quotes against what I know to be the facts. And there are several things that concern me. There is a quote that appears in the 4th paragraph in which it states that Ms. Pettit had advised that she had been cleared by the Select Board of any wrongdoing involving her stopping and photographing the youths. That concerned me enough that as it's presented as a quote attributed to Ms. Pettit, it's not true. That the Select Board has not opined, the Select Board has not concluded anything on that complaint. In fact, it is still a very live complaint before you. Additionally, it appears in quotes in the same paragraph that Ms. Pettit stated she was doing her duty as a conservation agent. Again, that's in quotes. There are a number of, it's a page and a half long, there are a number of paragraphs, a greater number of words, obviously. Only some of them are in quotes. The fact that a sworn member of law enforcement took the care to put certain things in quotes and certain things left outside of quotes shows that his intention was clear, that those are statements, those are words that are directly attributable to Ms. Pettit in their conversation. In the 6th paragraph, there is, again, in quotes, in the very last phrase, that Ms. Pettit indicated to the sergeant that she's a sworn person of the Conservation Commission and have been cleared of any wrongdoing. Again, in quotes, that concerns me because that is not a true statement. You then get to the first paragraph on the top of the 2nd page, where once again there is an indication that she had been cleared of any wrongdoing and could take pictures of anyone. There is, in the second to last paragraph on page 2, a statement that is once again in quotations from the sergeant, in which he indicates that Ms. Pettit said that we'll just have to keep trying to stop them. That concerns me because she had been advised by this member of the Mass Environmental Police that that was not her responsibility, nor did she have any authority to do so. And given the fact that a member of law enforcement, a sworn member of the Mass Environmental Police of rank, a sergeant, to whom we have an obligation to communicate completely, fully, and honestly, particularly given the fact, as cited in this letter, that there are so few EPO available throughout the state, that we need to maintain our credibility with them such that if there is an issue and we need their help, support, or enforcement, that they can rely on the fact that what we're telling them is honest, is truthful, is accurate. My concern, and I know a concern of the Chief of Police in my conversation with him, is that what appears in this letter attributed to Ms. Pettit in quotations are things that are not truthful. And I thought it worthy of bringing it before the board for your consideration as a matter of significant concern of mine. That's all I have in direct.
Do my members have any clarifying questions?
Sydney, all set? Just for you. Let me think for a second here. So, and stop me, Madam Chairman, if you think, or Mr. Kryler, so this relates to information that we have already had in the past, but with the statements that we have adjudicated, which we haven't. As you, as the town administrator, by the charter and your job responsibility with liability in protecting the town, and any conversations you had with Chief Eaton, are you concerned that there may be possible exposure for damages to the town of the actions taken?
I would defer to legal counsel representing the town before speaking into the public record that I believe we have liability for anything. What I'm speaking of and testifying to is the fact that there are statements being attributed to an agent of the town that, if they are truthful, as presented, are not honest, not accurate, not correct.
Thank you, Mr. Crowley. No further comments? Questions?
I do. Can I ask this question? I've read this over and over and over and over and over again, and although he does call it a conversation of contradictions, I have to agree. The way it's presented to me, I mean, it sounds, I don't want to use the term bizarre, I think that's an overstatement, but there's a flow problem for me. It just does, it's clearly not a transcript of the entire conversation, and I'm not sure that there's enough, say somebody's not putting enough quotes, but I'm wondering if there's more to the conversation than was put in this letter, because I just feel like I'm missing entire pockets of this conversation. Do you know any more about this conversation than what's in this letter? Do you see the problem that I'm not getting the flow here?
Through the chair, to Ms. King, I agree with you that this isn't a transcription of a conversation and that it doesn't flow as though it is. And my concern is less about that and more about the very specific things that are put into quotation marks. And I can't fathom a way in which any additional context could make it okay to say, if I were Jennifer Pettit, that I have been cleared by the select board in any wrongdoing, or that I've been cleared of any wrongdoing, or I have been cleared of any wrongdoing. Because the matter that's being spoken of is the issue of her having interacted with, in some fashion, two operators, minor operators of ATVs on conservation land. And that matter was heard as a complaint before the board, and it has not yet been finalized, which is fact. And what this is, whether it's a complete transcription or not, is clearly this sworn police officer saying, by the attribution of statements within quotes, that she said it is resolved. She has been cleared, and that is not true.
One thing I'm not able to get from the letter is the purpose of Ms. Pettit's phone call in the first place. What was, because I think My problem, and my question, I wish the writer of this was here, that when things are taken out of context, I think it misses a lot. And I'm not accusing this officer of not being able to write a letter, or I'm not questioning his ability in any way, shape, or form, or his truthfulness or anything. I just want anybody to be clear, but I'm just trying to make sense out of how to use it. How should we interpret this letter? And since you're taking the role as complainant, so I'm going to...
Sure. No, please do, and I can respond. The response I'd offer, Cindy, is...
So I'm not sure what... First, I want to... Which I'm sure we'll get to Ms. Pettit on this, but the initial purpose of her calling him in the first place, I don't think is all that clear. And then some of the statements, I think... I mean, I'm clear of any wrongdoing, but I think that I'm just concerned that there's other stuff in there that would help clarify that. Rather than just quoting, she said this repeatedly. Fine. But in the one statement towards the end, it says, we'll just keep trying to stop them. I think that can be taken in a number of ways. I'm not personally... It could have meant, she could have meant that she's going to physically stop them. But I think there's also, I want to stop people from speeding by my house, but I'm not going to jump out in the middle of traffic and stop them.
Understood.
Stopping them would be, I'm going to take other action, like I'm going to, please put a cruiser in my driveway and do radar. Those are ways to stop people from doing things without physically stopping them. So I'm thinking this, I'm sure Ms. Pettit can answer it better than, I know you can't, this is rhetorical to you, but I think that some of these statements aren't necessarily that clear on what was intended, partially because there's missing parts of the conversation, which it can happen, and then there's different ways of reading what people said based on instead of what they meant.
Sure. And I guess all I could offer is, unless the statement, I've been cleared by the Select Board of any wrongdoing involving stopping and photographing the youths, was preceded by, I'm about to tell you a lie, there's no way that could have any other context that makes it right.
Context may have something to do with what was the purpose of, why did she call him in the first place? Do you have any...
I don't, and you can ask her that.
Right.
I mean, I think it does state why he believes she was calling, which was looking for, right here, looking for, at best, conversation of contradictions, recent incident. She was looking for, can you, MEP, be able to do anything as far as writing citations for this activity? Several times throughout the letter, she appears to be asking, we have this issue, can you help us? In the conversation, the writer of this letter, a sworn ranking member of the State Environmental Police, felt strongly enough to put in writing and in quotes these statements that, irrespective of any other context, if those are quotes stated by a member of the town, they're not truthful. There can be no other context.
Any other clarifying questions?
Not for me, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Jennifer, would you like to come back up to address this? You're still under oath.
Is Mr. Cradler sitting there? Is Mr. Complainant, would he be sitting where the hearing officer would be sitting? That's
a wonderful point.
He won't be asking any clarifying questions, so I don't think seating arrangements.
Just to make it all clear to everybody. You could start with this again, yeah, because we thought it was one hearing.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm going to repeat this for what? A number of times.
You don't need to repeat what you've already read into the record.
It wasn't this hearing. It was not this hearing. We thought this was one hearing that was what was presented to us.
So you're going to reread what we've already entered, what you've already read to us?
We are going to read part of that.
Okay.
We won't read the Karen Hill part, but we'll read the beginning part.
Then I'm going to start with here. Here's what I know.
Well, it's not there.
Well, I really have no idea why you are wasting our time and my time with this meeting tonight. Here is what I do know. On Thursday, July 14th, I received a notice from the Selectmen dated July 12th informing me of an executive session to be held at 7 p.m. on July 19th to hear complaints against me. When I asked Jim Criley for a copy of the complaint, all he provided me was a letter from Sergeant Brigante of Mass Environmental Police to Townsend's Chief Eaton. This letter appears to have been solicited by Chief Eaton and contains Sergeant Brigante's recollection of a phone call I had with Sergeant Brigante 5 days earlier. There is no specific complaint against me specified in this letter. On Monday, July 18th, I received a message from Jim Criley indicating that the July 19th meeting would not happen. On July 23rd, I received a notice dated July 19th to inform me of an executive session to be held on July 26th at 7:30 to hear a complaint against me. In the packet I received on July 23rd was the Brigante letter and a letter from Karen Hill to the Selectmen that was dated July 13th. I am providing new statements refuting the information in Sergeant Brigante's letter and in Karen Hill's complaint. I am disappointed to see, this is in response to the Brigante letter, I am disappointed to see that an unrecorded call I made in good faith to obtain information from the Mass Environmental Police, referred to as MEPs, has now become a political football. I asked the town administrator what the complaint against me might be concerning this letter requested by Chief Eaton. No complaint has been presented to me. While the letter from Sergeant Brigante to Chief Eaton does not make any formal claims against me, I feel it is necessary to respond to the contents of the letter. I do not seem to recall my conversation with Sergeant Brigante quite the same as he has stated. At one point, he seemed very annoyed and not really listening to what I was asking. That may have been when we were discussing our lack of an agent and my question to him of who might act as an agent in a situation like this. Though I am sworn in as a Conservation Commissioner by our town clerk to uphold the rules, regulations, and laws of the Commonwealth, I never told him that I acted, quote, as a conservation agent, unquote. I have been a town conservation commissioner for almost 20 years. I know the difference between a conservation agent, conservation commissioner, and, quote, the commission. I have never represented myself as a conservation agent. He misquotes me, saying that I said, quote, I was cleared of any wrongdoing, unquote. All I told him that I felt I was cleared of the complaint against me about making photographs on public property. He also seems to misrepresent my use of the word, quote, stop, unquote. I was not talking about stopping one particular ORV, that's off-road vehicle, in one incident. I referred to stopping the illegal ORV use on town lands. I have communicated and attended meetings over the years with Lieutenant Walski, other Mass Environmental Police officers, our past police chief marshal, the heads of Fish and Wildlife, DCR, MACC, Friends of Willard Brook, and our town boards to work together to prevent the damage that these vehicles do to our wetlands and wildlife. In the past, we worked together to address these issues. I hope we will again sometime soon.
I'll give you that statement that the defense... Oh, you finish reading that. She has to finish. Sorry, go ahead. Stop. Get that. You read this now. Read that.
Seems repetitive, but...
You do it.
As you know, I've been a Townsend Commissioner for almost 20 years. I know probably better than almost anyone in town the difference between a conservation agent, conservation commissioner, and the commission. I have never identified myself as an agent or as the commission. In my 20 years of service at Townsend residents, I have never been subject to a complaint like this. I have no idea why the selectmen would even entertain these baseless complaints against me.
Any other testimony you want to share? Do you want me to enter that third document in, Jennifer?
No, it's all part of that together, so.
In the beginning here, I did say that this was an unrecorded call. I did call the environmental police and asked, and it was on his cell phone, and he happened to be on the road at the time.
I think he said this also.
So you said that you, can I ask?
Yep, go ahead. Any clarifying questions by the board?
So he told you that he was driving a vehicle?
Well, he pulled over
He pulled over.
to speak with me. I believe he did.
He's what?
I believe he did, yes.
Okay.
With your permission, Madam Chair.
Please.
Ms. Pettit, you stated just a couple seconds ago that you felt that you might have been clear of any alleged complaints against you about taking pictures. Is that a truthful statement? You can recall what you just said to me a minute ago, to us.
As far as that being illegal to do
Well, let me
on
just say what I thought I heard you say, maybe the other board members. You said during your statement there that you implied to the officer that you were only talking about that you could cleared about taking pictures of juveniles.
on town property, yes.
That's what I'm
On
asking.
public property.
You could refer to him the copy from the police.
Right.
Sergeant Landry.
I didn't bring my tons of other paperwork. I would refer to
All due respect,
what
I'm asking what you just said about 3-4 minutes ago.
I would
You
refer
said to us that you were implying that you were cleared to the officer there.
and I would refer to Officer Landry's
That's all.
statement.
Again, it's just a simple thing. I'm just trying to confirm what you said 3-4 minutes ago. And you...
Yeah, you did, yes.
Yes, I know she did.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get her to
I think
have
what
a
she's
township
saying
conversation.
is since this whole thing with Jim Cradley was a new thing tonight, she maybe would have
Right.
brought
she
Lieutenant
doesn't-
Landry's statement with her to give
But
to
I'm
you as
not asking
evidence,
that.
but we don't have
Carolyn.
that for evidence.
You
Okay.
can talk to her.
Okay.
I'm just trying to confirm what a statement she said a second ago. So it's pretty simple, just that.
Yeah,
Did
yeah,
she
yeah.
say that? Can you tell me if she said that? I need her to tell me, Carol, not you.
Yeah, she said. You read that.
I need you to say the words, Jennifer, please.
Of the word,
Do you want me to-
saying I was... He misquotes me saying that I said I was cleared of any wrongdoing. All I told him that I was cleared of the complaint about taking photographs on public property.
Thank you. That's all I was trying to do. There's no trickery.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Trust me. And again, folks, we had this conversation earlier. We want you to hear us, but we can't hear and take it serious. So please, all of us. So my question after this, getting to that, thank you for that answer, is who gave you the impression you were cleared of that? Jennifer?
You want to read that into the record? We can make a copy, I guess, you want.
We would need to make I don't have copies of this information.
Okay, so
I'm not asking you that.
okay, you just tell him it was from.
Well, it was Officer James Landy. It's when I went to speak to him on May 11th, 2016. Shall I read the entire thing in?
It's up to the Madam Chairman if she wants to accept it.
Wasn't that,
It was in the prior document.
it's in the prior
But
document.
this is a new hearing, so.
It is a new hearing, however,
I'll just read the
Since that's
one
been-
paragraph that relates to what he's
Thank you
saying.
very much for that.
Pettit was looking for information on whether or not she committed any crime. He describes the photographs.
So are you reading words from Officer Landry?
Yes, I
Thank
am.
you for that.
Whether or not she committed any crime. I advised Pettit that nothing criminal had gone on, and it was not a police matter. Pettit inquired as to whether or not she should delete the photos in my presence. I explained again it was not a police matter, and she could do what she pleased with the photos. But I suggested she hold on to them until our next meeting with her bosses in case they wanted to see the pictures for themselves. Respectfully, Officer James Landy.
Okay, just for clarification, an officer does not have the legal authority to clear you of anything. He only has the ability to take evidence and present it before whatever the deciding board is. But, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, you
That's
would
a
know
fair
that,
statement.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Well, that's what...
You wouldn't know that if you were just an average person, someone,
Well,
a
again,
police officer.
and again, I'm not trying to talk over his head, I'm just trying to so that we're all on the same fair plane here. Thank you for that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is that all?
That's all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The only question I had, Jennifer, is just so I understand, and I believe I do from what you said, is that you are disagreeing with the sergeant's statements, the sergeant's quotes, correct?
Some of them, yes.
Okay. Is there anything that you do agree with?
We'd have to look, yeah.
Okay, I'm just, I didn't know.
I think that it's the context of the whole thing. Okay. She was not aware that this was even a complaint because there was no formal complaint. She asked
I think we're getting hung up on words here, Carolyn. And
No.
It's not a complaint.
It is she had, what was your...
Carolyn.
Okay.
If we receive a letter from a sworn environmental police officer via our police chief, the sergeant might not be filing a complaint against them, but it does need to be heard. And you had notice of it 2 weeks ago, so I want to move past that a little bit.
Well, as it wasn't a complaint, if I had known it would be a complaint, I might have asked for an attorney.
Yeah.
I mean, Carolyn is helpful, and I really appreciate she does have a lot more experience, but I might have asked for an attorney to be present.
Well, that's right under the executive session, and you were given the executive session notice, and you were given a copy of this letter.
But this was a letter, not a complaint. Like Karen Hill's letter was clearly a complaint.
Yeah.
This is not clearly a complaint. It's a letter of information.
When this was received...
We got the notice saying there was one hearing tonight. We assumed it together, remember?
Yeah.
Say that to her.
Well, when we got the notice, we assumed they were together, and when I asked Mr. Kreidler at least twice about where the complaint was here, I didn't get any answer. And I believe I may have emailed that, but I'm not sure.
There was no reference. Excuse me, every time there was no reference to using these quotes, using quotes in letters. Some people use a lot of quotes, some people don't use a lot of quotes. You weren't sure exactly what this meant. Right?
No. No, and it's, this letter quotes me numerous times, and I do feel that I felt at parts of this conversation with him that he was talking at me and not listening, which I think I said, and not really listening to the questions that I was asking of him. I had hoped this to be an informational call on different things, and I just felt at one point that he just was very aggravated. I'm not sure why. Maybe, he wasn't pleased with any of the questions that I asked.
Okay. Do you have anything else to add?
I think your statement says it.
That other letter that I had initially written. For me to say I was doing my duty as a conservation agent, that's not a line that I would say. It's not my way of speaking, it's not my style. I wouldn't say that. Especially to an environmental police officer. I will also state again, I am sworn to uphold the laws, which one would assume when you're sworn in a number of times by the town clerk, that includes trying to tell the truth, telling the truth, and being as honest and straightforward as you can. You know, I did ask, I was wondering whether if information was given to an environmental police officer, would they be able to issue citations, you know, secondhand? And he said no, that was an answer. I have notified the local police. I communicate with them quite regularly. And, you know, again, when when I said we'll need more officers and we'll just have to keep trying to stop them, that did not mean going out and saying stop or stopping any OHVs or dirt bikes. It was just working together. We have met in this building together in the past with all this, with numerous state heads, police heads, trying to work on the OHV issues. We have had a take in Townsend from an off-road vehicle that is a concern of one of our state-listed species, and so it is a concern.
Anything else, Jennifer?
I think that's good. Good job.
I think. And we need to make copies
You
of
have a copy of that? You have that from...
We have that in a prior package, so I'll
It could
reference
be-
the exhibit.
Point of information, if I may?
Yep.
In the earlier hearing, there was a request by the complainant to be able to readdress the board based on the comments that had been made after the complainant had spoken. That was offered with the proviso that the person who was defending themselves would also be able to speak to whatever that additional clarifying information was. I'd like to ask for that same consideration on a very minor point, but I think a point that's very germane.
Could you read that whole list of things, the procedure for the hearing? I'd like to hear that again, because I don't think that was part of that
Well, that's
procedure.
what
when
we
you're
did,
doing
and we
to
did do that.
But I think, yeah, read the procedure. I think it's important.
If there are any additional first-hand witnesses or directly involved parties to the specific issue who wish to give testimony, I will hear Mr. Kreidler, and then you can redirect as well.
It's very brief, and I know that I'm still under oath.
Nobody has to move, so.
I know that I'm still under oath, but we've heard in direct testimony from Ms. Pettit that she did not know this was a complaint. Had she known it was a complaint, she may have gotten counsel. A number of times references made to her not knowing it's a complaint. I would submit this document, which is an email that I sent in response to Ms. Pettit's question about the pending complaint, in which I write, you should be receiving notice of the complaints, plural, in the mail today if you have not already. The meeting is being scheduled for next Tuesday, the 26th. The first complaint relates to statements you are alleged to have made to an environmental police officer regarding the matter of ATVs and specifically the issue involving Ms. Dunbar's complaint. The officer's letter is attached for your notice. So, consistent with the requirements of notice under the open meeting law, Ms. Pettit is entitled the right to know that a complaint has been made. Not a complaint by whom, but a complaint has been made, and then there are a series of rights that flow from that. She's been given the notice she's entitled to. I would have preferred that I not be the complainant, quite honestly, but I judged, given the meeting tonight, that it was necessary that the document be entered and presented to you. But the thought that she didn't know this was a complaint is just not true, given the fact that this letter, this email, expressly states in response to her question that this is a complaint and what it is about and what the attached document is. So I would just submit that to you.
The exhibit 4. Thank you. Did you want to respond to that, Jennifer?
Well, I guess I would have expected that there would have been, in the mailing that came by certified mail, that it would have been stated that it was a complaint.
Now, are you referring to the executive session notice?
Yes.
Okay, because that references the complaint. right?
It represents one complaint, not a complaint.
Yeah.
Not plural complaints.
In the email
A complaint.
reference
So we
complaint.
assume that these two of you could be put together, and that's how we prepared our work here tonight.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. So at this point, I'd like to ask my board members if they want to take under advisement or what they feel the solution would be to this particular complaint. Have anything? Gordon?
Cindy, you have any comments?
I don't think it has a lot of, I don't get the complaint part. I think there's too many questions. I have more questions about, like what I stated before, that I'm not, I mean, even if it's a complaint, I'm happy to just let it go. It's simply a partial record of a conversation with misunderstandings, and it's easy to see where misunderstandings could come from this letter. Even if there were things that might be interpreted in a particular way, it can be interpreted in other ways. Or I think Jennifer gave a good explanation as to the alleged statements that she was cleared of any wrongdoing. She was referring to the letter from Officer Landy, and that where there's things out of context from this letter, I don't see that there's enough to say that something should be done. That I don't think there's anything as a board that I'm comfortable with to follow through with anything other than to take note that we received this. Thank you. If there's any further concerns, we have this as a sitting on record, and if there's something else happens, maybe we can revisit that issue. But I'm satisfied with what Jennifer, her response. So. Gordon.
I'm looking for guidance from you, Madam Chairman. Are we allowed to go into deliberations on Friday?
No, it has to be an open because the hearing was open. What I'd like to... That's right, you can go first. I'm sorry.
No, I'm actually looking to listen to both of you.
We sent a package of information after the last hearings on the complaints to Town Council for advisement. I would like to forward this as well, and he can include it and come back and advise us on if anything should be done about any of it. I mean, I'm concerned enough that a Massachusetts environmental police officer felt the need to write our police chief about this conversation. That's not a...
Our police chief requested this.
Okay. That's enough,
We're not
Carolyn.
taking testimony.
I'm sorry. Excuse me, Karen. I'm not making assumptions. I don't understand this interruption. This is not time for testimony. So I would want to take this, the other is under advisement till we get the additional evidence, this particular, and send it to David Jenkins with the rest of the evidence from testimony from a month ago. This is directly related to it.
I would be in favor of that.
I'm not opposed to it. I think it might be a waste of our money, but
Well, it's all part... I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
all right, okay. But on this particular one, I mean, I'm not a police officer, but I know that it would be common, I would assume that it's common courtesy between police departments that if there's communication of this type, that it would be common courtesy for one department to make a note that, hey, I had this kind of communication with a member of your community, an official in your community, and to pass on the information. I think
we have
it
a
would
law
be
enforcement officer here.
Yes.
We can ask him if it's common.
I'm not going to give testimonial consistent
Right,
with training.
that's what
Well, if I could finish, I'll wait till you're done, Cindy, if you will. I'm not going to give testimony consistent with training and practices, but what I will do is to address the issue about there may be a waste of money to town council. Serious alleged and it's been represented by the chief of police and by other professionals, that if any of these are true, it could have serious financial liabilities, including civil rights violations, alleged to the town of Townsend. So it is totally not a waste of money to spend a couple $100s to save maybe millions. And again, this is all alleged, and I'm sitting here making no decision. But to imply that it would be a waste of money to seek guidance on anything to put this town at serious liability issues, if not addressed professionally, which we've been doing. So that's the only thing I would take offense to, the fact that it's a waste of money. It's actually spending money prudently to get professionals to take us, volunteers, so we protect all the townspeople. And so that's the only comment I will have, is that it is foolish. Huh?
Including Ms.
Absolutely. I'm not, again, we're not taking sides here, but to give us guidance that we're protecting all the citizens, including Mrs. Pettit. So what I say is, I think it's a good thing to spend a few dollars to make sure we're protecting the entire population of the town, and also protecting Mrs. Pettit. That's a good...
Does the chief want this to come...
I'm sorry, Steve, that...
No, you don't have to be
No.
sorry. I asked the question. Sorry.
No interrupting.
Wonder if the police chief wanted it. Don't want it to complain.
Again, Madam Chairman, that's all. I would be in favor of your suggestion. Thank you.
Okay, then. Look forward to council for review.
We need a motion on that, Madam Chairman?
I'll entertain it.
I would, if Cindy's all right with you, if I make a motion?
Yep.
All right, thank you, Cindy. I would make a motion that the chairman forward all the evidence and information gathered here to Copeland Page's attorney, David Jenkins, for guidance on this matter, how to proceed.
Second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And with that, I want to take a motion to adjourn.
We have another thing to do.
Make a motion to adjourn this public hearing.
Yes.
This hearing.
Yes, we're done with all the agenda items, so we can...
We have another executive session.
Yes.
We are not done for the night.
So, second on this one here.
How did I forget that?
Make a motion that we close this hearing.
Now we have to do a roll call vote to go into the other.
All those in favor? Aye. Executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining for union contract, subject to negotiations in an open meeting, may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the body, and the chair so declares, and the chair does so declare. So I'll entertain a motion.
Prior to the motion, as a point of information, as of today, the next meeting with the bargaining units is not scheduled until the 18th of August, which means there would be time at your next meeting to have this discussion, given the lateness of the hour. If it's your wish, we can do without it tonight and get it to the next one.
I think we could think more clearly if we wait.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I just try to
After 10 o'clock, we as a
We can
board,
meet,
I think
if we can meet, if
our
we need a
brains don't
strategy,
function after 9.
if we need a strategy session next Tuesday, that's fine. We can just meet for executive. So with that, I will table that executive session, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn.
At 10.